Hey, everybody on YouTube, what is going on as we are kicking off another beautiful night here of Spaced Out Radio? And I tell you, we are in for one delightful show. We're just waiting for Super Duke from World Bigfoot Radio to join us. We got Gary Spikes Jr., we got Bigfoot Michigan Rob, who put the headband on so he's not looking so much like Rick Harrison from Pawn Stars. That's just the way it goes, but we are having a wonderful conversation tonight. Let's give the rundown of everybody who is here so far. Dickens, how are you in the gold medal position? We got the gorgeous Emily Bigelow, otherwise known as Alaska's greatest athlete, taking home the silver. And coming in with the bronze, we got Race Fan. Yes, it's Race Fan in bronze. Yep. Katie A., how you doing? You're looking lovely tonight. Typical Watch, good to see you. Watson, nice to have you here, and thank you so much for kicking off the Super Chat tonight. Really do appreciate it. Hi, Sultry Susie, how are you? Nice to have you here. As we continue on, Cloudy with a Chance of UFOs, always a pleasure to have you here. The gorgeous and talented Steph Dickey from Florida has come back home, as she is going to enjoy tonight's show. Jack Clark, good to see you. Thank you for joining us. Hey, Trucker Andrew, where are you hiding tonight? There you go. Let us know if you don't mind. We love you, man. Thank you so much for joining us. As we continue on here, Typical Watch, good to see you. Scrolling on down, the gorgeous and talented Jessica Lee has returned. Thank you, Jessica. Ed Clater, how you doing, buddy? Mama Susan, good to see you. Mama Susan, by the way, will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio. Line up to the left. The gorgeous and talented Cosmic Fleur is back. SJ, how you doing? Abe, what's going on? Lovely Renee, thanks for coming on in. 416 Bitcoin is here. He'll be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the right of the studio for 16 Bitcoin, to the right of the studio. There's Gary from P3 Productions in the chat room. Scott Parsons, welcome to our chat room. Good morning to you from the UK. Really do appreciate you coming on in. Thank you so much. And I know this is going to bounce here, so just let me, there it is. There's the bounce. And let's see here. Let's go all the way back up. And now all the way back down. Cool. Jay Breezy, what's happening, man? Madison, thanks for coming on in. There's Watson's super chat right there. And the gorgeous and talented Jenny Metz is here, everyone. Make sure you say hello to her. Strange Recon Podcast. What is happening, man? Thank you for coming on in. Carol Burke, the lovely and talented Edmontonian. There she is. Hello, Mental Pancakes and Dirty Filth. Good to see you. And as we continue on here, Duke, do you want to do a quick sound check? Oh, I think Duke's already sounding better.
Check.
We got you, buddy. We got you.
Be right back.
MPM, what's happening, man? John Ballerman, good to see you. To Aikinator and Aussie, oi, oi. Dirt Road, nice to have you back. Open-Minded Clarity, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us. And let's see here. Who else do we got? The gorgeous and talented Kira has returned. Anthony Foster, what's happening, brother? Kelly Lewis, good to see you. Rich Hilke and Kurt Seltzer with a splash of lime is back. Hello, Jose. Tina P., you're looking lovely tonight. The gorgeous Michelle C. has returned. The lovely and talented Jenny is back. Chad Smith, what's going on? Hey, Troy SR71. Good to see you. Steve Edmond, thanks for coming on in. Hi, Ivy Smith. Thank you for joining us. Papa Craig, Derek Lindsay, thank you for joining us. Silent Edge, good to see you. There's Bigfoot Rob. He's on the screen right there. Michael Lastuca, good to have you here. Vinster, what's happening, brother? How you doing, man? I hope you had a good day. And Uncle Dale and his Power Stash are here. Remember, if you run into Uncle Dale while you are in Austin, Texas, be sure to rub his Power Stash for good luck. It is said to have 10 times the power of a lucky rabbit's foot. Dickens, you can lick my forehead if you want. I will take that. Thank you so much. It is a little oily. I'm not going to lie. But, hey, do what you got to do, Dickens. Do what you got to do. Thank you for the super chat. Boom to you, Bama. How you doing, buddy? Good to see you. Thanks for coming on in. Let's see here. Who am I missing here? I think Project Blue Book I'm missing. Yes. And who else? I got Daring scrolling on up. The lovely and talented Sherry Knight. There she is. Brock Williams and gorgeous Larry. Welcome to the show. Third Eye Sore. Welcome to the channel. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you don't mind. Hi, Steve Stockton. How you doing, brother? Good to see you. Hi, Millennium. How you doing, man? Thanks for coming on in. Hey, little Mikey Rainbows. How are you, buddy? Good to see you. I was looking for you today Didn't see you around. Did you actually stop by? Let me know. Maybe tomorrow you can stop by because I like it when you stop by. It's all good, man. There he is. There's Super Duke. Randy Spurl's here, everyone. Randy Spurl. All right. Hey, Fapster, thank you so much for that super chat, man. Love you, brother. I really appreciate you. We got about 5 seconds. We're going to get this thing rolling. If you're new, hit that subscribe button. Let's rock and roll. Horns up. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. I tell you, we head into the forests of North America tonight to discover some of the most amazing close encounters with Sasquatch that have ever been reported. Our guest tonight from World Bigfoot Radio on YouTube, we have Duke Sullivan from the YouTube Podcast Brunch with Bigfoot, Bigfoot Michigan Rob, and from P3 Productions, Gary Spikes Jr. Together, these investigators and researchers have had their own close encounters, along with hearing dozens of stories from everyday people who've encountered the legend of Bigfoot. Stories so real, some of them may even terrify you, that you may think of thinking twice about going into the forest the next time you decide to go. Gentlemen, welcome to Spaced Out Radio. How y'all doing tonight? Hey, Duke, we're having some audio problems with you, my friend. We can't hear you now.
Can you hear me, Dave? I'm doing fantastic.
All right, Super Rob, we got you. And Gary, how you doing, man?
Pretty good. Ready to get this thing to go.
All right, Gary, I'm going to get you to move a little bit closer to your mic if you don't mind. Gentlemen, we're going to be doing a Bigfoot show tonight. And Duke, you got yourself on mute there, just so you know. I want to just say thank you for coming on in and talking some Bigfoot with us because, you know, this is a subject, gentlemen, where when we take a look at it, you guys are all experiencers. You guys are people who are tracking down the stories. You're hearing the stories. You're being able to listen to the stories, the people who have had encounters, whether it's scared them, whether it's been emotional. And Gary, I'm going to start with you on this one. All right. When you look at all the stories that you have heard about this creature, including your own, you know, is this a creature that we need to be afraid of? Is this a creature that we need to be worrisome about, our safety in the forest? You got your microphone on mute, Gare.
Sorry about that. That was unprofessional. I would say that it needs to be very well respected. I would respect it more than how about now? I would say that it needs to be very well respected. Like I was saying before, it's even more than a bear because of the intelligence level and the speed. You know, I've never had what I would personally say is an aggressive encounter. Just the sight of it alone terrified me enough. But you sure hear a lot of stories of them starting to get a little aggressive if you start messing with them a little better. You know, Duke can chime us in on that one a lot better because he's been doing this a lot longer than I have. But they definitely got the potential to be extremely dangerous. I mean, with the speed and the size and the strength and the just the sheer brutality of the force of their being. You know, you're looking at something 8 to 10 feet tall with shoulders 5 foot wide. You know, of course they'd have the equipment to do it.
Gary, for people who may not be familiar with you, how did you get invested in this subject? I mean, you're an ex-Army Ranger in the United States Army, and thank you so much for your service, for everything that you did. But for you, how did you get invested with this?
I was, as we said on the first show, I was raised up in the woods. Literally, my father and my grandfather are both veterans, and we knew that in every male in our generation, at least, if not 90% of us, all of us, every generation served, and we knew it. So they started preparing me. And of course, being raised on a ranch down here in southern Oklahoma, you're always outside as a kid. But being in the outdoors, you always hear them older stories. Being here in Oklahoma, a lot of Native American intermingling cultures, and you hear them stories and stuff. And our family's been in this state since long before it was a state, and you hear those stories and stuff. And they very honest with our teachings of our kids. There's things in the woods that you need to be very careful about. And then, of course, having my sighting at very young age in Colorado with my grandfather, it really opened my eyes. And that's when I started. I think I was 12 or 13 then. Really started investigating it and learning more, and then it became full circle when I joined the military and got to talking to guys and being able to travel outside of the state, getting with guys from Wyoming, Montana, Utah, Michigan, and it's been a major part of my life ever since.
Duke, how you doing?
Good. Been fighting with tech issues most of the day here. It's been intensely irritating.
Well, and I apologize for that. I know what it's like, my friend. I know what it's like. I'm going to get you to turn the volume down just a little bit on your microphone, if you don't mind, because you're really hot on my end. And you're a good-looking man, but your microphone's hot. That's what I'm saying. Anyways, Duke, for you have one of the largest Bigfoot channels on YouTube with World Bigfoot Radio, and you're a giant supporter of what we do here at Spaced Out Radio. And every time I get the opportunity to talk to you, honestly, it is a pleasure to have somebody here with your knowledge and understanding of this subject from all facets. For you, we'll start with you, a 2-point question. Number one, do you think this is a dangerous creature?
Certainly can be, but just any large predator could be a dangerous creature depending on how you deal with it.
And why is that?
Well, because they're used to having their little territory in their own way, and if you get too much in their way, they ain't going to put up with it. And that's true with bears or Bigfoot or whatever kind of alpha animal you're dealing with.
And for you, the way you see this creature, and with your own experiences that you've had, how did you get started in this?
I accidentally saw one when I was out sledding when I was 10 years old. That wasn't fun. I was out with one of my friends, and we had made a great big sledding run out in the middle of nowhere, about 2.5 miles back behind my house. And it had just been brutally, brutally cold. As a matter of fact, we had an all-time record low temperature in the county next to us, which was 52 below. And so as soon as it warmed up a little bit to like 20 below, we went out and decided we were going to pack down the slope and make a sledding run there, make a luge run, put it all down and everything. And sure enough, about a week later, it actually melted a little bit and froze and got nice and hard. So then we wanted to go out there and test it out. And when we got out there, we were taking turns going down this thing because it was actually 3 big hills stacked on top of each other with switchbacks and a lot of timber on it. It hadn't been logged off or anything. So that was the reason we had to make a luge run and make like big supers to make turns and stuff so we could go flying off. And so consequently, in order to be on the little bit smarter side and safe, there's only 2 of us there. One of the guys would stand about halfway down the hill while the other one was taking a run down the hill and keep an eye on them, make sure they didn't pile into a tree and get killed or something. And so we did a slow run for the first one. We each did one. Then we did a mid-speed run for the second one. And I went back up to the top, and I was about to do the third high-speed test run. And I noticed that as I turned around and plopped my sled down, something looked different behind me than it had previously. And my brain wasn't really registering what it was. So I turned around and I looked again, and I still couldn't figure it out. The third time I turned and looked, I realized what was going on was that the whole top of this hill was all hardwood, so they're all bare. It's the middle of the winter. It's just snow on them, no leaves or anything. But there's a big black spruce off to my right-hand side about 40 feet away, and it had 3 trunks. Well, pine trees don't have 3 trunks. And 2 of the trunks, although they were the right size and about the right color, had hair on them. And, tree trunks don't have hair on them. And all the grayish long hair had like little snow dingle balls in it. So I thought immediately that it was somebody that had like old snowmobile snow pants that had hair on the outside of them. And they were just like peeking at me through the tree. And, the first thing that registered in my brain is, well, somebody found our cool sledding run, and that ruins everything. Now they're going to be out here all the time. And then I realized when I looked up to about where a human's face should be, there wasn't anything there, but there was a rustling about 3 feet above it. And I looked up there, and there was this evil face that was like peeking at me through the branches. And it had one hand like this, was holding the branches up, and the other one was holding the branches down. And it was just staring at me. And as soon as I saw it, and it recognized that I saw it, it gave me this evil grin. And this thing had a mouth that went from like ear to ear, and what looked to me like shark-like teeth. And I went, I don't know what the bleep this thing is, but I'm out of here. And I jumped on my sled and tried to break the world luge speed record down the hill to get away from it. And as I was coming down the hill, my buddy, who was about halfway down, sees me coming. And apparently, just judging by the look on my face, being pasty white and bulging eyes, and I yelled, "Run like hell," as I flew past him on the sled. So he followed me, but I still beat him back out of the woods by a good 15 or 20 minutes. And he was huffing and panting pretty bad by the time he got out there. But that was the first time I saw one. And then it was 5 years later before I had to see another one.
All right, Rob, Bigfoot Michigan Rob, we bring you in here to chat a little Sasquatch with us. For you, you had an incredible encounter with your ex-girlfriend, and it's a very emotional story for you, as I do recall from the last time you were on a few weeks ago. But for you, being a believer in this creature, what do you think we're dealing with? Are we dealing with a violent creature? Are we dealing with a solitary creature that just gets angry because it wants to be left alone? What's your thoughts?
Had he asked me this question 3 years, my encounter, actually the anniversary of my encounter, June 18th of this year, so almost 3 years away. And if you had asked me that question a month later, I'd have told you that it was a violent creature. And from my experience, I kind of gleamed it to be violent. Now, as you know, and the panel knows, since I've done research, not really boots on the ground, but listened to other people like Duke Sullivan, like Gary Spikes Jr., and a plethora of others, they're not all bad, okay? I'm not going to call it a friendly forest giant, because there's plenty of documented stories that have them being very nice, and some, quite frankly, they're not very nice. Mine wasn't very nice. So right now I consider it, I'm 60-40. I don't trust any animal. I'm not going to say Bigfoot's an animal. We'll get into that later. But in my opinion, I'm scared of it today. Oh, my encounter. However, as I said, doing a show that I do now, talking to other people, I have swayed. My pendulum has gone a little being violent, but my encounter certainly was not. It was very aggressive, and I'll never forget it.
Gentlemen, as we take a look around this creature, all of you guys, including myself, have had some pretty incredible stories over the years of what this creature is, what it isn't. And that is for great debate within the Sasquatch community all around North America. The debate is what I think hurts a lot of the relationships and the studies of mainstream science taking this seriously, and even amateur investigators such as myself from taking it seriously. We know there's something out there. I've seen it. You guys have seen it. Many of our listeners have seen this creature. However, when it comes down to it, there's a lot of great debate that goes on. Is it a monkey? Is it interdimensional? Is it a form of person that is still primitive? I mean, where are we lying on this creature as we start to move forward here we're well into the 21st century now, and we're still having these same debates that were happening in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. Duke, let's start with you.
I defer to the Ketchum DNA study, which has already sequenced their DNA genome, and it's listed in ZooBank. And there's a bunch of deep state flunkies running around trying to discredit it right now. I'm sorry, that don't wash. If you go look at the actual evidence and who did all the testing and everything, there's over 100 samples from all over the continent. I know some of the people that provided the samples. It was a legit study. They don't know exactly what the father is, but, in order to test the DNA on something and match it with something, you have to have a pre-existing match. So there isn't anything pre-existing to match it to. But we have, through her study, found that the mitochondrial DNA is human and the nuclear DNA is unknown something or another. And apparently it hybridized 12 to 15,000 years ago. So, obviously they're adjacent humans. They couldn't successfully hybridize with us if they weren't. They wouldn't be able to mate with us. You can't mate with a gorilla and make a baby. Sorry, don't work that way. They have to be really close to humans. And that's why if you go look at the human DNA sequences, especially from Northern Europe, you're going to find that like a lot of the people there actually have Neanderthal DNA, many of them up to about 3%. And there's also been crosses that have been documented between Neanderthal and Denisovan. They recently found a skeleton over in the Caucasus Mountains that they tested because they couldn't figure out what it was. It was both. It was a hybrid of the two. And they've additionally also got the Denisovan DNA sequence. So, that's like pretty hard evidence for what they are. Lots of people have found hair samples, tissue samples, toenails, little pieces of bone have been found, lots of hair samples, blood samples, all this kind of stuff. And a lot of the times when people test these samples, you get these guys that go, well, it must have been contaminated because it's coming back as human. Well, did you clean the sample? Because, that's actually something you can do, especially if you got a hair sample. It doesn't even matter if you touched it at this point. They can clean the sample and they can still look at what's inside of it. So that doesn't wash anymore. And the reason it keeps coming up human all the time is because they're adjacent humans. And half their DNA sequence is human. Duh. So really, it's just a lot of holdovers from the 1950s and 60s that haven't done their homework, don't pay attention to what the latest things going on in the scientific community in relation to the Bigfoot community are. And, I find it to be very disturbing, distressing, and annoying myself. There's a big part of the Bigfoot community that don't pay attention to anything new that's coming out and are essentially blind dogs chasing each other's tails in a circle forever. And that's about all I got to say on it.
All right. How about you, Bigfoot Rob?
I'll tell you what, when I had my very first encounter, what I seen on the shoreline was a human. It looked like a person with Down syndrome. And the only exception was it had reddish brown hair, covered from head to toe, with the exception of a grayish face that was kind of like chicky, kind of wrinkled, and it had offset eyes. And it looked like a big person covered in hair. But this big person was like 9-10 feet tall with an arm span of about 12 feet when it lifted up its arms. I'm like, wow, perplexed. And then when I'm one of the first people I think that has seen it actually vocalized at me with a screech, a yelp, which disturbs me today. Actually is one of the things I know it has some audio very similar to what I experienced. And this thing turned to something that I always say today. It turned demonic. The face turned from a human-looking person into a thing that you would see in a comic book. Its jaw dropped. It looked like Pac-Man. The face got taut. It had, I wouldn't say fangs, but it had canine teeth. And it, in unison, let out a roar without even moving its lips. Now we're talking about a mouth that was like long, and put a bone on it. So going back to the question, I think they're flesh and blood. I'm in that camp. But I do, and I talk ad nauseum with Duke. We become friends, and I respect Duke a lot, and I get a lot of information from him. But to this day, when you see it physically like I did when they made that transformation, that metamorphoses, I still cannot wonder what else it was. And then I started investigating things like chimpanzees, apes, things like that, even orangutans, how they can fold their face back, look differently than what they originally are. I get that. So I'm still on the fence with it, I'm going flesh and blood, but the thing it turned into he was out of this world, and I'm not in that boat. I'm not in that camp, but it still makes you wonder and have your doubts.
All right, and let's get to Gary here on Space Out Radio as we talk Bigfoot all night long. Gary, for you, when you look at this creature and the way there's a great debate going on, what is it? What's it all about? Why haven't we found one? I hate you because you investigate this way. You hate me because I investigate the opposite way. I mean, we see a lot going on with that. So what is your take on this? I mean, there's a lot of politics that's happening in this field. And normally people out there who may not be familiar with it, they don't see the politics. They just see the areas that, you know, that we're all just trouncing around the forest, running around a bunch of deer trails or logging roads, but they don't see that there is a great debate going on.
I'm going to, the next few things I say is probably going to make a lot of people mad in the community, but I'm at the point now. I love how Duke put it a few years ago when it got away from the focus of the investigation to the actual target species itself. You know, when that becomes your focus, a lot of these folks that are starting all this debate and trivial, you know, mashing of words have never even encountered one. You know, I hear so many people say all the time that when I see one, this is what I'm going to do. You don't know what you're going to do. I mean, I'm going to be blunt with you. I know what I did. And, you know, I get people tell me all the time that that's the reason they know that I seen one, you know, because I messed my pants and pissed my pants. I'm going to tell you flat out. When you see one at 18 inches, you dang sure it changes your mind. But the whole point of that is I say it all the time. My Bigfoot ain't got to be bigger than your Bigfoot. My Sasquatch doesn't need to shoot lightning bolts out of its ears and noxious gas out of its behind, which they probably do anyways, knowing their diet. But I think a lot of the community is just it's not about the Sasquatch. It's not about the Bigfoot. It's not what I like to call the target species. It's about them. You know, when they lose their focus on what they're looking at and start looking at themselves, hey, I can be a big dog in this. And that's where we get a lot of problems. But, you know, I'm seeing an influx in the last, you know, couple of years that there are a lot of folks that are still very serious about this. And, you know, when I seen the one that I seen, I have to go back. You know, I have to go face that fear. I am literally obsessed with this. I have to touch base on what Duke said. The DNA is there. It's very simply put. And it's not just Dr. Melba Ketchum catching it. It's other people too. It's other universities, just not as well known as her programs. It comes right back to the human. The thing that I seen at 18 inches looked like me looking back at it, but it had hair and it had shoulders about this wide. Its face, Rob's right on. The mouth on a human, when you look at a human face, the mouth comes about halfway into the eyes, straight down the corners of the mouth on most humans. This thing's mouth came to the outside of the humongous mouth. You know, I can biomechanically explain everything that Rob just said, but make a long story short, the point we're getting at, if people would, us as a community, if we would put all of our egos aside.
All right, I'm going to get you to finish that. When we come back, Gary Spikes Jr., Duke Sullivan, Bigfoot Michigan Rob, Bigfoot Talk, all night long. Let's get Sasquatchy, shall we? Right here on Spaced Out Radio. All right, we're clear. Two things. Duke, I have to say I'm laughing because when you speak, we can't see your mouth move because your microphone is like this. And
That's
like,
good.
So the whole time I was laughing because I'm thinking in my head, like, does Duke actually talk or does he have like one of them squawk boxes that's like right here chatting away?
From Home Improvement, the neighbor.
Yeah.
Actually, we're lucky I can even get on right now because I was trying to set up a new mic today because my old one is basically broken.
Oh,
and I
geez.
just jury rigged this thing together in the last 20 minutes. So I could be on.
That sucks. I've had that happen.
It sounds pretty good.
Hey, Rob, do you have another
Yeah.
Wi-Fi that you can connect to? Because your Wi-Fi is cutting out. And I know that's your normal
I could probably
spot.
reset.
If you got
Yeah,
an
I can
Ethernet
reset
cable and you can plug
Wi-Fi.
directly into the Wi-Fi, that would help too.
Yeah.
Actually, it is. It actually is. We got 5 minutes. Want me to reset it?
It's
It's up to you guys. I have plugged directly in. I noticed that when I was speaking the last little segment.
Yeah. Like
Well,
right
did you
now
ever
you're
try-
good. Right now you're good.
Right now, I'm good.
Oh,
Okay.
there you cut out. Yeah, quickly reboot if you don't mind.
Rebooty.
All right.
Dave, I readjusted my volume. Does it sound okay now?
Yeah, you're sounding beautiful.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I'm going to go grab
You're-
some coffee because I'm
yours-
about to fall over.
All right, you go. All right. Let's see here. Hey there, brother Eugene. How you doing, man? All right. Hey, UFO Bigfoot, what's happening? All right. Let's see here. We're good. Sinister Vax, how you doing, man? No, I don't need a cowboy hat. What can I use here? I don't have anything that'll match my shirt. That's the problem. Yeah, I'll just go like this while I wait for them. No point in looking lonely on the screen. Chad Smith, yes, we love our UFO garage around here. Holy cow. Isn't Duke like a bull in a china shop? Seriously. That guy makes a lot of noise. It's hilarious. Hilarious. Dave has a couple of Sasquatch encounter stories. No, that's next half hour, Kira. Next half hour. Thank you, gorgeous Jenny Metz. Jennifer P., who's down in Laughlin, Nevada. Hey, yeah, Mike. This is my buddy Mikey Schmidt there in the chat room. He gave me this vest. I love this vest. It's a Carhartt. I'd never owned anything Carhartt before. And then he decided to lose about 75 pounds. And it's like, yeah, you're a fat guy. This doesn't fit me anymore. And I tried it on and it fit. And I was like, damn it. Rob and roll right there, buddy. Rob and roll. Jennifer, are you at the craps table right now? Are you at the craps table? Actually, it would be a magenta, Derek. A magenta. Ed Clater with a huge super chat there. Thank you, Ed. Appreciate that. It's very nice of you. I will never wear a Toronto Blue Jays patch. Ever. I'm a Yankees fan. Oh, there's little Marky Spender right there. Fat guy approved, which means that he has officially given the thumbs up to me wearing this vest and shirt combination. Mark's the guy who, Gary, Mark's my buddy who keeps saying that if we get chased out of the forest by a Bigfoot, he's going to shoot me in the leg so he could get away. That's my friend right there. That's my friend.
That's the going thing with people that go out with me. They say they don't have to outrun the Bigfoot, they just outrun me.
Yes, and then my buddy Mike, remember I was telling you the story about the voice in the forest?
Yeah.
That's Mike in the chat room here tonight.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Talk to him.
Yeah. That he'd love to talk to me. We got to hook you guys up. Oh, my boy Baxter. Little Marky Spender's dog Baxter absolutely loves me. He watches the show. Hi, Baxter. Hey, Baxter. What's going on, buddy? Baxter. Anyways, thank you to Watson, to Dickens, to Fapster ×2, Emily, and Big Rob, and Ed for the super chats. Great way to support what we do. All right, here we go with the next half hour. Second half hour is underway tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on with a big paranormal roundtable of Bigfoot researchers. We have from World Bigfoot Radio, we have Duke, we have Bigfoot Michigan Rob, and we have Gary Spikes Jr. hanging on out with us, having a good time, chatting lots about whatever this creature is. Now, Gary, I know for you, I want to get into some stories tonight because that is big for our audience. Let's hear some really weird, wicked Bigfoot stories. You've talked to a lot of people, man, who have had encounters with this creature. Outside of your own, what's a story that really sticks out to you that you've heard about a close encounter with this creature?
You know, really, and I might get in trouble talking about this, but I'm going to give the man credit. One of my mentors in kind of the community for a few years was Mr. Randy Arrington from Ozark Mountain, Sasquatch. He had a friend that when he heard the story, she was in her 70s.
Yep.
And she, at a young age, I'm pretty sure it was in Missouri, up northwestern Missouri. She was reading a book, this was back in the Depression eras, shortly after. And she was reading a book out on the tree line underneath some trees. And this one kind of gets me because it makes me think of other things. But she, at the age of 10 or 12 years old, I think she might have been even younger than that. She was sitting there reading and something made her look towards the brush line. And when she looked towards the brush line, she seen a Sasquatch on all fours coming out of the brush line, and it was about 4 foot from her. And she just jumped up and ran to the house screaming, and it just disappeared. But just knowing that, knowing what I know about predators, I always tell people when you got a Sasquatch bluff charging you, yes, there is the potential for danger there, but that's not the one you need to worry about. You need to worry more about the one that's sneaking up behind you. If they want you, they're not going to bluff charge you. They're not going to display. They're not going to snap tree limbs. They're going to, if they're coming after you to consume you for food, they're going to jump on you from the surprise attack. But that's one of the ones that really kind of disturbs me, because I won't get into her religious background, but she was a very religious lady. I don't think she would have any reason to stretch the truth. And just knowing that a Sasquatch was coming out of the woods after a young female makes me think of a lot of the 411. We hear a lot here in Oklahoma. We have the Native American background, and you hear a lot of those stories of young women getting taken. And even up there in Canada, with you along a certain highway, has more First Nations women taken, and we don't know what it is. I have to revert back to, what Duke said earlier of the DNA, you can't breed with them, but there might be something behind them trying,
Have any of you ever been stalked by this creature? I have.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if I shouldn't say we were stalked. That's probably the wrong thing. But I know my buddy Mark, my buddy Merle, and we were chased out of an area by 2 of them. There was probably 3 there if we would have went the wrong direction. But have any of you ever been stalked or pushed out of an area by these creatures?
I've been stalked by them. I wasn't actually pushed out of an area. And I think they were actually trying to keep an eye on me, because we were up at the ghost town of Coloma in December when the road is closed and you're not supposed to go there, and we got stuck. Should have taken the hint from no tire ruts going up there. And the folks I was with had all their kids with them. So being that I was the only one that didn't have kids, I elected to be the one to walk the 7 miles out down the mountain and try and get help, after we spent about 2 hours trying to push a vehicle out to no avail. And after I got about a mile down the mountain, I picked up a follower. He was on my left-hand side up on the ridge line following me. And he was making enough noise, it was obvious. And I'd stop walking, he'd stop walking. And and I'd start walking, he'd start walking again. And I got no gun, no flashlight, nothing. It's getting dark. I'm going down the mountain. He followed me for about a good, probably a mile. And I think the only reason he stopped is because snowmobilers came by and I thumbed a ride. And hey, can I get a ride with you guys the rest of the way down the mountain? And they said, yeah, are you with the vehicle up on the mountain that was stuck? And I said, yeah. And they said, well, we managed to drag them out twice. So hopefully they'll make it down the mountain now. We'll give you a ride to the parking lot. You can wait down to the bottom of the mountain for them to get there. Okay. But I was fairly certain that in that case that he was just keeping an eye on me, because I was completely unarmed. I'd been up in that area a bunch of times, probably already knew me, and went, what is this idiot doing walking down the mountain in the dark without a flashlight or a gun? I better follow him so something doesn't attack him. And frankly, I was relieved by hearing the footsteps. So most people would be freaked out by it. But you know what? If you got a big Sasquatch following you, there's not going to be any mountain lions sneaking around trying to get you. There's not going to be any grizzly bears following you trying to get you. They're going to stay far away. So I actually was kind of relieved by that whole thing.
How about for you, Rob? Have you heard stories of tracking or being pushed out of areas or stalked?
Well, first of all, how am I coming in right now?
You're sounding beautiful.
Excellent. Good. I've heard several stories, in fact, and, reverting back, though, to my encounter, I wasn't stalked, but I thought I was pushed out of my area. And that's where we revert back to, is Sasquatch aggressive, or is it somebody, a mean or a malevolent being? When I had my encounter, rocks was thrown at me at the boat, right? Literal rocks. And my girlfriend was telling me, hey, Rob, something or somebody is throwing rocks at the boat. At the time, there's nothing on the shoreline. And then I blew her off, like whatever. And I was going about my business, setting up our fishing tackle. And then a rock, and I had noticed a rock fall in front of my boat. I actually looked up in the air and seen it coming down. It looked like a baseball. And then when I looked to the shoreline, I seen the creature standing there. And that's when it, as I explained earlier, looked like a human. And then when it turned into something different than a human and screeched and roared at me, yeah, it was like, get the crap out of here. I mean, that's my first thing. I was like, oh my God, certainly that's what I did. I just hightailed it out of there. So I guess in a sense, he was just protecting his territory. Now that I have more experience thinking about these things, I think he just was protecting his territory. He was maybe not violent towards me, but certainly gave off a violent temperament as to where, hey, you don't belong here, buddy. This is my fishing area. And the stories that I've gotten through emails and such for our show that we do, in fact, it goes back to, I had some people talk to me about being stalked about them. We can talk about them later in the show if you'd like, but from personal experience, I don't like talking hearsay. I can tell you what I know for a fact is this thing wanted me out of there. Was not stalked, but did not want me in his fishing grounds. I got an email about 3 months ago from a guy, and my encounter was in Cadillac, Michigan, and this person lives in Cadillac, and he went back to the area in which I researched, not where I researched, where I had my encounter, and he did research in my area where I saw the Bigfoot, which I've yet to be back to, which I think is going to be my first place I go before I even go see Duke or anybody else, because I have to do this. But back on top topography maps, this guy saw the waterway into where the Bigfoot seen me, and he went back in there, and there's a video. He sent me a video, which I have, where he goes back in Mitchell Creek, which was off of Mitchell Bay, off of Lake Cadillac, where I had my encounter. And going through this bay, he was showing me and telling me about he's seen like abandoned boats that were just looked like they were left there, Like people they left fishing tackle there. They upended on brush. They were upended on stumps that were coming out of the water. And he was going back in this area. It was very swampy. And, Bigfoot does travel, not as a fact, opinion, waterways. And all these waterways, there's so many fingers where I was that this thing traveled. And I got creeps. I saw this like 2 months ago, and he showed me these maps of 3 abandoned boats and all this and that, and saw some footprints, which he has no pictures, of course, but he was just telling me as hearsay. So certainly other people have told me these things, but I take it as hearsay until I can talk to them and vet them physically. I'm not going to comment right now, but I think that for sure, if you're in a place where they don't want you to be, get out.
All right, Duke. Duke, I want to get to you here, if you don't mind, Duke. In regards to being chased out or encountered, have you heard a lot of stories about people being chased by these creatures out of the forest?
Less than you would think. Most of the time they do a bluff charge or an aggressive display, and the people take the hint and get the hell out of there. It's kind of rare that they actually have to escort people out. There's usually a reason for it. I had Scotty on. He was up in Alaska doing a moose hunt, and him and his buddy started encountering all kinds of Sasquatch tracks and tree structures. And they called me, and I said, well, hey, can you spend some time? We were out there moose hunting, documenting this stuff, and they were both kind of into it. So they went, yeah. So they spent the whole next day documenting everything instead of moose hunting. Well, meanwhile, their 2 other buddies continued moose hunting. They were about 3-4 miles away from them. And while these guys were walking around in the area they had found all this activity in and documenting everything, these other 2 were trying to moose hunt. One of them took a shot at a moose, missed. And within 10 minutes, there was 2 of them on him. They could hear them on both sides of the trail. They were growling at him, snapping branches, making an obvious loud noise, making obvious loud steps. And right away, they figured out what it was. These guys weren't dummies. And one guy says, what do we do? And the other one said, shoulder your rifle. Strap her onto your shoulder. Put your hands up just like somebody's got a gun at our backs. And then he said, we're leaving now. We're not going to do any more hunting. We're out of here. You guys don't have to worry about it. Leave us alone. We're out of here. And apparently they followed him like 3/4 of a mile back to their vehicle, making plenty of obvious noise on both sides. That was escorted out. They weren't happy about him hunting the moose there, whether they got one or not. And they let him know about it. And those 2 guys were really lucky that they both knew something about the situation and didn't get themselves in even worse trouble by like trying to take a shot at one of them or something. And they also said when they got within about 50 yards of the parking lot, that was where they stopped. They didn't follow them any further.
See, for us, when we got tracked out, when Merle, Mark, and I got tracked out, we were actually at a plane crash site where 52 people died back in 1965. And that's where we ended up getting chased out. Now, Merle and I first heard the one talking to us, much like what you would hear on Ronald Moorhead's Sierra Sounds.
Yeah.
And that's what started it. And Merle and I were like, did you hear that? Yep. And Mark didn't hear it. But, well, I mean, he's been around so much gunfire over the years being a hunter. I'm surprised he can hear anything, but I'm saying that because he's listening tonight. And anyways, so we walked back towards the crash site, and Merle was doing an investigation at this piece of the plane, and I was kind of moving towards where Mark was. Mark was about 90, 100 feet from Merle, and I was kind of in between. And this creature actually snuck up on Merle behind the brushes and was giving its grunts and stomping its feet, shaking the branches, scared him to death because there's grizzly bears out there.
Yeah.
We're on a paranormal investigation. We're not even thinking Sasquatch at this point. It wasn't until the Sierra Sounds kicked in that I realized that we were dealing with a Sasquatch. And then that's where Mark, at almost the exact same time, took his backpack off, lowered his rifle, pointed it in the opposite direction of us, right into the forest, because Mark is a guy where I trust him with everything in the forest. I really do. Probably shouldn't, because he said he would pop me in the leg if he had to get away because he's slower than me, right? And he's proud to say that. He's proud to admit that too. But the whole point is, Mark is one of the most brilliant people I've ever met in the forest. And my buddy Mike is pretty damn smart too. And with Mark, I mean, you could be walking along the forest and all of a sudden he'll stop you because literally there's footprints that you're stepping over and you're not even looking at them. He's like, oh, there's a horse print, there's a hoof print, there's a moose print. And you're looking down and you're like, where? I mean, that's how accurate his eyesight is. And so when we're in the forest and Mark will say this, he'll say he doesn't know what it was, but he sure knows that there's a difference between two-legged creatures and four-legged creatures in the forest. And this thing was big. He didn't see it, but he could tell by the sounds of where the sound was coming from in the forest that it was coming from up high, not at ground level. And this thing wanted to know it was there. And the funny part about it is we got one guy coming from the right who is scaring Merle. We got the guy coming from the direction of where Mark is, and the one trail out is in between. And that's where we had to go. That's where we had to go to get out. It was incredible. Incredible. Now, the idiotic, thought after, I wish we didn't leave. I wish we did not leave. But it's funny because in doing this show on a nightly basis, you learn a lot. You do learn a lot. And when you hear stories of Sasquatch in graveyards and dogmen around graveyards, well, guess what a plane crash site is? It's like a graveyard.
Yeah.
Right? Even though they collected all the bodies, there's still DNA there. Right?
We haven't been able to figure out why it is yet, Dave, but there is a strong correlation there. And it's not just graveyards and stuff. It's any old ruins, abandoned ghost towns, old megaliths, old, partially leveled buildings, any places where, humans lived at one point, even in the very dim past. They hang around these places for some reason. I had somebody that talks to them say that they consider the places that are, abandoned and people used to live in to be like basically sacred or whatever. So they keep an eye on them. But
for sure.
Who knows? But there does seem to be a strong correlation there. Yeah, we look for that kind of stuff out here in Montana. There's lots of old abandoned ghost towns and stuff. Some of them aren't even on maps. Some of these things, there were 4 or 5 families living together in a group. It was never a town. It wasn't labeled as a town. They all left the area. All those old buildings are still there. I've had local friends run into some of this stuff. And, one of them, his dad used to run forestry here. And he would occasionally run into stuff and go, this isn't even on a map. I just found a cluster of like 6 buildings out here. And that's the kind of stuff they'll hang around by.
Yeah. So that's what gets me thinking. Are there a lot of stories out there, gentlemen, of these creatures protecting sacred type sites where there's been a lot of death? A cemetery has a lot of death, obviously.
Protecting, I don't know. They're pretty good. If they're hanging around an area like that, you're going to get 1 or 2 responses from humans. A, we hear them vocalizing and think the place is haunted because it sounds like ghosts when they're vocalizing if you don't know what a Bigfoot sounds like. Or B, people are actually there and see them or, have Bigfoot type, encounters and stuff over there and go, well, yeah, these places, are infested with Bigfoot. You get a lot of it from down south with old abandoned farmsteads and barns and stuff like that. And people will be like, well, that old property is haunted. Well, how do you know? Because we heard weird howling and stuff coming from it late at night. Well, it's probably a Bigfoot living there. You got an old abandoned barn. That's a convenient place to not get rained on, right?
I want to stop the show here for 1 second because I want to bring up Julie's comment in the chat room. She said, I had chemotherapy today and was feeling a little down and can't sleep, but everyone here in the chat room is making me laugh and forget the daily crap. SOR, Dave, his guests, and all of you in the chat are the best. Thanks. You know what, Julie, we're gonna send you a lot of love and thank you for joining us and being a part of this. You are a big player in what we do here, just like everyone else is, and we're gonna send you a lot of love and a lot of healing and a lot of everything that we can to support you here on SOR. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us And you know what? You're going to win. You're going to win. And I can already feel it. We love you, and thank you for showing that with us, and I appreciate that. Let's continue on, gentlemen, with the Sasquatch stories tonight. We got about 3.5 minutes before we got to go to break here at the top of the hour. Why do you think this creature is territorial? Is it territorial towards humans because it's maybe a vagabond family that's moving through, or is it territorial because maybe it's like a wolf pack or a bear where it has a kill nearby for food? Why do we think they're territorial like that? Gary, you're shaking your head. You might want to turn your mic back on.
Sorry about that. I honestly think that they're more territorial because they know what humans, anytime a human comes into their area, usually more humans come. If they hurt a human, more humans come in. And we have a tendency to just tear everything up we touch or ruin the fauna of the area. I think they just want us to stay away from them. But every experience where I was chased out of the woods, which has happened like 2 or 3 times, we went back in later and found juvenile tracks. So it could also be a family group, and the big male usually comes down off the ridges and gives you lots of displays, and we back out. So it could be a family troop issue too, because you got to think, we as humans, we're pushing so far back into, especially down here in the South, pushing so far back, they don't have the territory they got up there in the Pacific Northwest. So of course they're going to have to push us back.
Rob, would you agree with that?
I like to piggyback on top of it. Yeah, I would like to piggyback on top of that too, because Sasquatch has observed us for many years. They know what the humans are capable of. Certainly a 1,200-pound Sasquatch can squash a human, but they don't want to deal with a human coming into the forest packing any sort of weapon. I don't care if you got a 45. I don't care if you got a shotgun, a high-powered rifle. They don't want to deal with humans in that regard when they're out hunting or perhaps hunting them. They'd much rather protect their family and keep us away. Not that they're scared of us necessarily, because they can take care of us at any time. They don't want to get hit with bullets. They don't want to be intimidated by our weaponry and our technology. And in that regard, yes, they want to stay away from us. They want nothing to do with us. They want to hide from us, not because they're scared of us, because of what we can do and what, more importantly, what they've seen us do. Perhaps not to them, but other species in the forest. Therefore, they're like, hey, stay away. Men with camouflage, men with weapons, we want nothing to do with that. Therefore, that's why they're elusive. That's why they're not around us. Want nothing to do with us because they know what we're capable of. And I think a lot of people forget that point.
That is a huge point right there because, we don't know what they're capable of. We don't know their territory. We don't know a lot about what they're eating, what they're feeding off of. We can only assume. We believe they're omnivores because we have people see him eating berries, people see him eating fish, people see him eating, wild hogs or deer or whatever they could get their hands on. So we can believe that they are omnivore. But tracking it down, trying to figure it out, who knows? That's part of the fun. That's part of the mystery. As tonight on Spaced Out Radio, we got a great panel talking Sasquatch all night long from the gorgeous state of Michigan. We got Bigfoot Michigan Rob, World Bigfoot Radio on YouTube, Duke Sullivan, and from P3 Productions and Spaced Out Radio, Gary Spikes Jr. We'll be back with more Bigfoot talk. When we come back, it's going to be a good time. You stay tuned. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. All right, we're clear. Duke, your mic's on mute.
About that.
Everyone forgets that.
Yeah, I totally agree with Rob. And, it's interesting that a lot of the forestry stuff that's been done is actually patterning known wildlife.
You guys chat away. I'll be
right back. Good example of that would be like black bears, which, they know have about a 40 square mile range for a black bear. Well, mama black bear would be the only bear you'd be seeing with more than one bear. She's got cubs with her maybe. But other than that, they're solo. So one black bear has a 40 square mile area.
Yeah.
You would expect that the Sasquatch, a family of them, even, like maybe there's 4, mom, dad, 2 kids, okay? They're going to take a pretty big area in order to get enough food to feed them all. So you might want to extrapolate out and go, well, geez, each one of them is going to need as much area as like a black bear. So that's going to be 160 square miles for 4 of them.
Yep.
Maybe, except for 2 things. First of all, they work together to gather their food. And secondly, they're a hell of a lot smarter than a bear, and they can monopolize food sources bears can't even get at. So my theory, from what I've seen especially, in that some people are interacting with the same groups of year-round for decades, they're not going anywhere. I think their territory is limited exclusively to how big of an area they need to feed themselves, and that's it. Beyond that, they're really not moving around outside their territory. And if they were, they'd be intruding on other Sasquatch clans' territories, and might be problems with that. So that's why I don't believe in the migratory theory, because if they move out, somebody else is going to move in and take their good spot. And then when they come back, there's going to be a fight over it. And you're just not hearing lots of Bigfoot brawls happening out in the woods all the time. So I tend to discount that pretty heavily, especially because of firsthand observation, where people are interacting with the same group over and over, day in, day out, week in, week out, year round, for years. They know they've got all of them named. They know what they look like. They're always around. Well, they're not migrating yet.
I agree in 99% of that. I think they move inside their territory.
Oh yeah, their territory has to probably be pretty big.
Yeah.
It can be quite large because it depends on the local food sources. If it's like here where it's densely packed with food, they got one mountain. They can live on that year round. They don't need to move. In some of these other areas like the Southwest or something, they might have a huge range in order to be able to gather enough food to feed themselves.
Down here in Oklahoma where we're at, that range doesn't have to be, it could be like 5 square miles because they have all the farms.
Exactly.
I don't know how many times I've found tracks of these things sneaking into gardens and taking corn off the shucks.
Well, that's it. They're not dumb, and they've got opposable thumbs, so they can make use of all the kind of food sources that we can eat. They can eat a lot of things that we can't eat.
Yeah.
And they're smart and fast enough to grab stuff that, like it would be tough for us to get our hands on. And, like I said, they can eat things we literally can't eat and digest. Skunk cabbage, they've been observed eating that, like we can't eat that. It would kill us.
Yeah.
They can eat it, apparently. I'm going to duck off for a cig real quick here. Carry on, Gary.
I guess I'll talk to myself. Hey, Gary. How you doing, Gary? Here, let's see. The Murray, my brother from Norman. How you doing? Hey, what up? Yeah. Definitely I'm up. I got Who Scout into this. Folks, I got to say that I am quite happy. Dave saying Gary Spikes with P3 Productions and Spaced Out Radio. That makes me cool. I love to be part of this team. It's been a great experience the last couple of weeks. Let's see. Let's go over some other comments. Jenny White Bear, she's always here. That's my sister. She's awesome. She's a sweetheart. Let's see. Jeff Gear, how you doing? Michael Haywood, how are you doing? Mr. Lee 3PO, Spikes Jr., where's my shirt? Well, that depends on who you are in real life. Because no telling. Let's see. Vinny, you're always here, brother. We see you quite a bit. Jazz, glad to have you on, man. Love seeing the younger generation because you guys are the one to carry this ball when we can't. You guys need to really learn as much about this subject matter as you can. That's where the future of this research is in the younger generation. Your boy, Roy Boy.
All right. Jazz Ramblings, 15 years old, listening to tonight's show. We really appreciate you tuning on in, kiddo. Hope you're having a good time enjoying it. Roy Boy, what's going on? How you doing? And Gene Beckett, the lovely and talented Gene Beckett is here. Paul John Tavares has a nice goatee. He wants everybody to notice it, if you don't mind. He would appreciate that. Let's see. What else we got here? We're on in about 45 seconds. Big thank you to Watson, to Dickens, to Fapster, Emily, Big Rob, Ed, and Madison for the awesome super chats. The Queen Bee is here. How are you? Much love. And who else do we got that's come in here? Bill Effin Murray is back. Bill Effin Murray, how you doing, buddy? Good to see you. And, oh, hey, Clam. What's happening? Oh, hey, Clam. And am I missing anybody else? Let's see here. I don't think so. Mm-hmm. And, oh, there's the lovely and talented Shar. Hi, Shar. How you doing? Big thank you to you. And we'll put that up for Clam because he likes that. All right. We're on in like 5 seconds here. Let's have a good one here as we kick off hour number 2 right now.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for tuning us in. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Thank you to everyone tuning us in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Paduasoy. Paduasoy is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We introduced the panel tonight, talking Bigfoot all night long. The legendary Sasquatch researchers we have from World Bigfoot Radio on YouTube. You need to subscribe to this channel. It is Duke Sullivan, Bigfoot Michigan Rob from Brunch with Bigfoot. That is a tongue twister. Brunch with Bigfoot. And from P3 Productions and one of my main men here at Spaced Out Radio, we got Gary Spikes Jr. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. I want to get into some big-time stories here, Duke, and I know you are full of them when it comes to this. I mean, there's a lot of weird, strange cases that we hear about Sasquatch all the time. And you doing World Bigfoot Radio, you have had a plethora of stories over the years that just involve everything from kids to adults to seniors and everything in between. Doesn't matter what it is. You know, what are the stories that really creep you out, Duke?
Man, honestly, I probably hear 4 or 5 new Bigfoot encounter stories every day. So, multiply that times umpteen years. Ones that creep me out are the ones where we're not sure what they're dealing with. Whether it's actually a Sasquatch encounter or whether they're running into something else that's doing similar things to a Sasquatch or mimicking them, or, some of these variable farm entities. And then the other thing that creeps me out is where people have an encounter with something, they think it's a Bigfoot, and, from what I know, it's definitely not a Bigfoot. And then I have to break the bad news to them, and they're really not too happy about it. That was... The reason I got on that wave is because my first encounter when I was 10 years old was with something that I'm still pretty sure was not a standard Bigfoot. It's one of the weird, rarer carnivorous sub-varieties that live up, north, which we still haven't got a clear handle on what it is exactly. Is it a type 3? Is it a type 4? Are they both the same thing? Don't know. But it's not a Sasquatch. And in areas where these other things show up, the Sasquatch apparently do their best to get rid of them in short order. They don't put up them. And in some cases, like Gary, and some other people, I'll tell you from the encounters they've heard, the Sasquatch will actually get along with the dogman that are in their areas. Sometimes they get along with them just fine. They don't necessarily chase them out or anything. And these other things, it seems like both the dogman and the Bigfoot do not get along with them and will go out of their way to get rid of these things. And, most of the few encounters that you hear with these things where you can be pretty certain what it is that you're dealing with, these are not positive. These things are really aggressive. They don't, when you go in the woods and there's a Sasquatch there, they try and get further away from you and hide. These things follow you around and, get closer. Not good. They're prime suspects on my who's making people disappear list, to be honest with you.
All right, let's get to a question from Rob here, who is asking, can a full-grown Bigfoot climb trees? If a hunter is 30 to 35 feet up in a hunter's perch, are they okay?
If the tree can hold their weight, they can climb it. They climb like apes. Surprise, surprise. They could chin themselves with one hand. They've been observed doing it.
And you got to keep in mind, too, that it's been known that they can jump 20 to 30 foot.
Yep. And I had somebody that was telling me that they had an encounter at their research area where they could not figure out what was going on because they were hearing them. They could hear them getting closer to camp. They were making a racket. They were making all Bigfoot noises and stuff. And when they went out and looked in the woods where they were hearing them the next day, they couldn't find a single track. And I said, well, how big is the forest there? And they said, well, it's old growth trees. Did you look up in the branches? Well, he went and looked up in the branches, and guess what? Bark knocked off all over the place where they had come through the branches on the trees, right up to camp. They weren't even on the ground.
Very interesting. All right, let's get to our next
I like
one.
to chime in that.
Okay, Rob, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, chime in that, and then that real quick too. If you notice, everybody notices about, and there's always reports how you only see 50 feet, 60 yards of Bigfoot tracks along the tree line, and then they stop and disappear. And everyone always suspects maybe it's the woo. It depends on the circumstance. A lot of times they're jumping up into a tree and they're just getting out of there. That's my theory, my opinion. So yeah, they definitely said they carry their weight there into a 90-foot tree.
Gary's right about their leaping ability, too. We've got examples of them walking a straight line, and all of a sudden they'll jump to the side 25, 30 feet. Well, nobody bothers to think anything is going to jump that far sideways, so they don't look that far out to try and find tracks. They just assume the tracks disappeared.
Go ahead, Gary.
In tracking these things as much as I have with Rob's deal, I've literally watched them walk up to a big oak tree, and I lost their trail about 5 feet from the oak tree. So I started looking up because that's my first thing I do is start looking up. And then I kind of glanced down and I noticed it had literally stepped from root base to root base around the tree and then went out. And then in what Duke is saying, first line of tracking, when you lose your trail, you back up to the last point and you circle and then you do a grid pattern. And I don't know how many times I've found impressions where they've landed 20 feet off trail, 25 feet off a trail. I always thought that it's taking a step in between them. But if you figure something that's 10 feet tall, a 6-foot human takes on average a 32-inch stride on a step. You take something 10 feet tall, a 7 or 8 foot stride is normal. So you're figuring if you factor in what a human, a well-built human can do in a long jump, a standing long jump, I think the world's records is like over 20 foot. What can these guys do? A hop is 20 foot.
All right, let's get to PBR's question. Nowadays, everybody has a great camera in their pocket. So where are all the good pictures of Bigfoot? And
where are all these great cameras?
Well, I mean, look, a lot of the cell phone technology is fantastic now.
It isn't when you aim it at a Bigfoot or another cryptid and then the pictures get blurry. Everybody that asked this question has never done any field research and tried to get a picture of one.
I understand that.
And
go ahead, Rob.
And you know what, too? Understand what Duke is saying, and at the same time, hey, most people know about my Bigfoot encounter, and I had my cell phone in my boat a foot from me. And I've gotten slammed for this on social media or people comment on my video that I put out years ago about my encounter, and they asked, why didn't you take a picture? Do you think the last thing that I'm going to do when I see something I've never seen in my life, I'm trying to figure out what it is, give me a yell at me, girlfriend falls off my boat. Oh, I'm going to stop for a Polaroid. I think not. And everyone had asked me that question, and it kind of irritates me because I know it's happening to more than one person. My last thing is not thinking about pulling out my cell phone and taking a picture when I'm seeing something that is like so crazy that your mind is suspended in animation where you can't, your cognitive thinking is suspended. I'm not taking a picture. I'm worried for my life when I had my encounter. I don't know what this again, but it was so overwhelming to me. Certainly, would I like to have gotten a picture? Certainly, damn right, I took a picture. It wasn't a thing about taking a snapshot. I think the Taki movie. When my life, I feel is threatened. So, people that ask those questions, you know what? Boom, thumbs down. If you're not in that situation, you're speaking on that.
I got to back Rob up on that one too, because it's not just people that are seeing one the first time, or even people that have seen them multiple times. I've had researchers with me. The last summer I had Sunny with me. She's seen them multiple times. She actually got into a fight with one and didn't come out on the good end of it. And when she was up there with me, we had one step right out and open about 80 feet from camp. Bright daylight, stood there for about 45 seconds, looked at her, and then stepped back in the tree line. She had a cell phone right next to her hand. The last thing that occurred to her was to take a picture. And I was sitting across the camp from her in a position where I couldn't get a picture, and I realized what was going on. And I went, camera, 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 camera. She was just too stunned to do anything, even with me prompting her, even with the camera right next to her hand. This is the kind of stuff that happens. And then the other thing is that if you try and, we found this out over and over again, and go watch all the recent episodes that I did. I just had Bama Bigfoot on. She gets more pictures of them than hardly anybody. And she'll tell you, if you aim a camera directly at him, you're going to get a fuzzy blob. She was out in the open. There was one 25 feet away from her, just plopped down right in the wood line, was sitting there looking at her. And she spun around with her camera and tried to get him on video. And when she just figured, I got him, I got the proof. And she went back and looked at that video, and it's nice and bright and sunny, and everything's clear except for the blob sitting there right in the open, which shouldn't be a blob at all because everything else is in focus. Why isn't that in focus? She was so mad she wanted to throw her camera at the wall. But this happens to everybody that does the research on these things. People that usually catch them on camera aren't aiming the camera at them. It's off to the side of where the focus of the camera is somewhere. And the things don't think you're aiming a camera at them, and then you catch them accidentally.
And that's
usually where you get them.
Gary,
this is a very touchy subject for me. So, boss, you might have to rein me in. I'm a freaking airborne ranger. I've fought on 2 continents. I've got the scars and the bars to prove it. I'm highly trained. When I seen the one I seen face to face, the last bloody thing on my mind was grabbing a damn camera. It was, I grabbed for my pistol. After I got somewhat control of myself, 90% of the people that sees these things are not expecting to see them. So how can we expect somebody to reach? You're trying to get over just the initial contact of this. Now there are folks, like Duke says, that are going out and that's exactly what they're looking for. And so we have a multiple level episode going here. We got people that's just trying to get over the shock of seeing one. Then when you do get a bloody picture of it, then it don't work. I've got trail cameras. I've got thousands of trail camera pictures. And then every time you get Sasquatch in the area, you always have. We just had it happen 2 weekends ago down on the Red River at Brown Springs. Trail cameras malfunction. I don't know what causes it. I'm not even going to go there. I don't know. But I will go. The last thing in your mind was pulling up a phone and, hey, let me take a picture of you. You're more worried about trying to survive and get over.
Okay, and I agree with you guys on this, okay? I do, because when I had my Sasquatch encounter, I didn't believe that I was seeing 2 of these creatures right in front of me. I didn't think about it. When I saw the alien in the forest, didn't even think about pulling out my camera because I didn't believe what I was seeing. And Samantha Mowat, who was with me, is like, hey, see, I told you. Aliens in the forest, I mean, there's a lot of things when you were panicking inside, but I think when it comes to people like PBR, I think it's a legitimate question. He isn't doubting the research, or he isn't throwing a sarcastic question out there. I think he's much like me and many others who are sick and tired of seeing these people zoom in so tightly on it that everything is pixelated. And can you see the eyes? Can you see? And you're looking at it and you're like, dude, that is a tree branch with some shadows looking like eyes. Or how do you take a bunch of leaves that are having reflection off the sun, okay, and calling that a Sasquatch? Or, there's all of these out there, and that is the frustration. It's much like the UFO field, where 90% of the people who catch something up above, they have no idea if it's a 747, if it's a drone, or if it's a UFO, or even a shooting star for that matter. I mean, look, how many reports are UFO people taking these days on Skylink or Starlink, whatever Elon Musk's satellite feeds are that go in the straight line? Every day they're getting calls on it. Every day. And so that is the frustration, I believe, with a lot of people who want to believe, but they can't understand where all these photographs are coming from. Now, I agree with you guys in a sense here that I do believe that there is something weird about this creature that does not allow it to be photographed. Okay, that somehow it has the ability to cloak itself or blur itself out to technology. There's been hundreds, if not thousands, of cases of this. But for the rest of it, the people who are posting on all of these Facebook forums and everything with, and you're like, and they're like, do you see that? Do you see that between the branches? And you're looking at it and you zoom in and you're like, moss? That's what's pissing people off, guys.
Rob can vouch for that.
I agree. Dave, I agree 100% with what you say, too. In fact, PBR, I will say right now, I'm not mad at the question. I've gotten that question asked 1,000 times. But you know what? If you look back on this past Christmas, I got a great phone, and I'm trying to take a picture of my niece. I took probably 6 selfies of her, and of the 6, and I'm talking about some dude standing with his niece like this. Of the 6 pictures I took, 5 were blurry, and I'm not scared. I'm looking at Sasquatch. I'm looking at my 22-year-old niece, and I could not get a clear picture. And that's just me, a novice photographer. So can you imagine, even as a researcher with a camera, and you see this thing, unless you've got a $10,000 piece of equipment, you're not capturing something that's going to come out clear. It might, honestly. But I like the question. I'm not mad at people that pose that question. It just bugs me when I get asked, when I've seen it and I last in my mind. But I respect Dave, and I get it.
In what Dave was saying, especially Duke and Rob and Dave and all of us that host shows and stuff. And Rob, you can vouch for this. You've heard me say this over and over and over. I tell people on my channel, if you have to circle it in red and send it to me, don't bother sending it to me, because I don't like seeing that. If you've got a decent picture, send it to me, but don't circle it in red. Send me the blank picture. Don't tell me where it's at. Let me locate it. Because if you have to circle it or show me where it's at, then you're already putting an impression in my head that you're trying to lead me into something. Send me the blank picture or just a basic picture, then let me locate it.
That's good advice. Very good advice.
And you know what? That's great advice, Gary. You know what? And since I've been doing the show I get that all the time. And every time I look at the circled picture, 75% of the time, since I'm getting better at it, it looks like pareidolia.
That's a word I don't
so
like.
That's just my...
Because 90% of the time when playing devil's advocate, 90% of the time when these people are sending you these pictures, we don't know what they're seeing and I want to hear the story that led up to the picture, for the simple fact that's where the information comes from. But I don't say it's pareidolia, and I don't say that it's fake, because these people truly believe they see something.
But on the flip side, Gary, Send the original picture. Don't zoom it in.
Yeah.
Don't try and do your own shading on it or turn it to black and white or different colors or pixelation or whatever. Just send the original. Send the original with the story, because the person who has the technology to investigate it, whether it's yourself or Duke or Butch Witkowski or whomever, they already have the technology to do what they have to do to that photo. Absolutely. So when I send Butch Witkowski a photo, and I've sent him quite a few, all right, the first thing I am doing is I'm just giving him the original. That's it. No zooming, no nothing. Let's move on to another question here, guys. Eugene is asking, what kind of weapons do you think, or what kind of weapons do you guys carry when hunting for Bigfoot?
Duke, you start this one. I love what you do.
Well, I'm a lunatic, so I don't even carry a weapon. I just carry a battle axe or, machete or a sword or something with me in case I run into a mountain lion or a bear or something. That's enough to chase them away. As far as guns or anything, I don't carry one. Some of my team members have one in their vehicle or something. That's just in case a grizzly comes up in the camp and gets pesky, then we'll blow him away. But in the area that we research in, we really don't need them because it's crawling with Sasquatch. There's no predators up there. They'd be insane to go within miles of that area. So we don't really have to worry about it. As long as the Sasquatch aren't mad at us being there, they'll protect us just by presence, because no predator in their right mind will go anywhere near that valley as long as they're in there.
Down here in the south, it's a whole different story, because we have hogs, we got snakes, we've got everything. When I'm by myself, I carry a Bowie knife and a camera and a bright light. If I've got my dog with me and my wife, that's my research partner. Now my dad is part of our team. I do carry a firearm. Now, in this new area that we're going into, it's known to be aggressive. I do carry. Now, people, you're going to laugh at me when I say this. I don't carry 9mm. I don't carry. I'm going to get serious here. The smallest gun I carry is a 45 long Colt or a 12 gauge in a long gun. I prefer not to carry a long gun because I truly believe that if the Sasquatch sees the long gun on you, they'll fade away. So we usually carry covered, or a sidearm. But if I have to, I carry a 12 gauge pump.
Well, let me back you up on that, Gary. I agree with you completely in that methodology because we do the same thing. But what I'm talking about is we've already reconned an area and we know who's living there. Yeah. If you're going into an area fresh and you haven't reconned it, you go in with more than one person, go in armed. Absolutely. Make sure you know what is there before you go start playing around and taking chances. And just because it's Sasquatch there doesn't mean it's safe to go in there unarmed. You got to go in there a few times and see how they react to you being there. And the other thing that's interesting up here, if you carry a rifle or a shotgun, you're going to get trailed by mountain lions and grizzlies because they have figured out that that's a sure meal. Somebody walking around with a long gun, they're hunting. They're going to kill something. And that mountain lion grizzly is going to try and get that kill or at least get the yummy gut pile you're going to leave. So they will actually follow you if you're carrying a long gun. You're safer carrying a pistol here in Montana.
Very true. Rob.
I carry a pistol.
Yeah. Yeah. What I agree with these guys, when your boots on the ground in the forest, you're carrying a weapon maybe for the hogs, like as Gary was saying, or cougars. Bottom line, for people out there hunting Bigfoot, I don't like that terminology, but the thing is this: you're not gonna. If you raise your gun and shoot a Bigfoot, you're committing suicide anyway. So why bother? Because where there's one, there's more than one, anyways. So if you bother to shoot one, you're done anyway. So I would never attempt to shoot at one unless, of course, it was threatened and wanted to kill me. So really, it's not wise to even point the gun at a dog, at Bigfoot or a dog man for that matter.
All right, Rob, thank you so much. Gentlemen, we're going to take a break here at the bottom of the hour here on Spaced Out Radio, talking Sasquatch stories. What should we be doing? Let's hear some more stories from Duke Sullivan, World Bigfoot Radio, from P3 Productions, Gary Spikes Jr., and, of course, from Brunch with Bigfoot Michigan Rob. We'll be back with more Spaced Out Radio right after this. All right, gentlemen, we're going to boot through a bunch of questions here so I can get caught up in the chat room. Just quick answers if you don't mind. Jazz is asking, do they have supernatural powers or just good at camouflage?
I'd say both.
Me too. Me too.
I say the camouflage is supernatural power.
Yeah, their ability to camouflage is that good that it's practically supernatural. Yeah. But I'm pretty sure they have other abilities on top of it. Yeah. When you get pictures of something bending the light around it that was standing right next to you, and that's not camouflage.
All right. Typical Watch is asking, can Bigfoot make their eyes glow different colors?
I can actually answer that one, Typical. It seems like it's the light that's being used to illuminate them will determine what color comes out, and also the angle that it's hitting them at. If you're hitting them dead on with one kind of light and you move to the side with it, it'll appear to be a different eye shine color.
There's many factors. I've got a nice paper I found from an optometrist that put out even blood pressure can affect the color of the eyes.
And that might be why their eyes are turning red, because they're getting pissed and it's pumping all the blood into their eyes and it's reflecting that red back.
Yeah.
Okay, so just to let people know,
and even like
1 second, Rob, just to let people know, the chat room did jump on me here. So I may have missed some questions. We're going to keep booting through a bunch of these here. Go ahead, Rob. Sorry.
No, I was just even to chime in. You can take the same animal and the different angles of reflection from light will change the a different shade.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, so, Rob, you're starting to break up quite a bit again. Are you plugged into a hard line or are you on your phone?
No, I'm right into the computer, Ethernet. Maybe it's time for me to reboot again. We have about 4 minutes.
Yeah, about there.
How about now?
You seem better. All right. Michael Haywood is asking, if deer had the brain of a Sasquatch hunters, they would leave the woods. Okay. Never mind. No offense. Hey, Jordan Pettit, welcome to Spaced Out Radio. Thank you for joining us. DB Queen is asking, what about using a GoPro like motorbike riders do? Maybe put it on your hat or wear a harness.
Anytime I step in the woods, I've got a GoPro right here running 24/7.
Yep. Scott Carpenter has done that a bunch where he's had one on the back of his head walking through his research area and caught stuff following him and watching him.
Yeah. I just started doing it on my back, but definitely on my front. It's not on my head because you jerk your head too much. I put it on my chest. But yeah, anytime I'm in the woods, you can see that on my YouTube channel.
Little Marky Spender says it should be a rule that Bigfoot has to wear a pink shirt like Dave, stand out like a sore thumb then.
That's why they won't do it.
Yeah, exactly. Ozzy Steve, thank you so much for that awesome super chat. Really do appreciate that, my friend. Thank you so much for the love, man. Thank you. All right, moving on. Let's see here. Let's see here. Scrolling on down. Mark uses a 4570 Marlin guide gun, by the way.
Excellent gun.
When we're out in the forest. Yep. And 3&1 is asking, will government ever release info on other species such as Bigfoot or other hybrids? And if they're not, are they international?
No, Bigfoot are all over the planet. They got different names for them in every continent. Other countries actually admit that they exist and have for a long period of time. The United States is one of the suppression countries.
Yep.
All right. Abe is asking, do you use any infrared or thermal imaging equipment when going out for Bigfoot?
All the time. All the time.
Duke, how about you?
We only got one guy on our team that's got a thermal, and it's like second generation Russian, so you can only see about like 50 feet with it. So it's good if they're right next to camp, but other than that, man, point at him with a laser pointer.
And 15-year-old Jazz Rambling says, good night, everyone. I have to go to bed. So good night. Good night, young Jazz. Jordan is asking, we got about a minute here, do you think Bigfoot will help you if you are being attacked? Now, I believe there have been stories about that. Let's get into that question when we come back, because that brings up some real interesting cases. So, hi, Applesauce. Nice to see you. And Jeremy Jones, good to have you back, my friend.
Dave, I'm going to step out and grab a couple drags off a cig here real quick.
All right, you got about 1 minute.
John Hudson, you're right. 45 long colt's not a cheap round. Luckily, I load my own.
Yes. All right, 12 seconds here. Thank you to everybody on the super chats. Really do appreciate that. Here we go, everyone. Let's have some fun. We pass the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for joining us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight with Talking Sasquatch all night long. We got Super Duke Sullivan from World Bigfoot Radio, Gary Spikes Jr. with P3 Productions out of Oklahoma, he's researching, and out of the beautiful state of Michigan, Bigfoot Michigan Rob. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Now, I want to start off with a question from Jordan here, who is asking, do you think Bigfoot will help you if you are being attacked? Have you heard of stories like this? Gary?
Yeah. I mean, a few. Most of them are old. I haven't heard, in the last, say, 20, 25 years. But, a lot of older stories, one of the, especially from the First Nations people, hear stories of some of them doing that, especially, and there seems to be a commonality. It's usually females, rescuing young children. And one of the real common ones is the South Carolina young toddler that lived in the woods for 3 days in sub-freezing temperature, and a bear kept it alive. Of course, that's not helping in an attack, but that's helping. And then you have lots of stories of them carrying people out of the woods and putting them, in areas. That's the reason this target species is such an in-depth subject, because you get from both ends of the spectrum, just like you do humans, good and bad.
Rob, how about you?
I've just heard about the incident in Carolina, like Gary was speaking on. Duke could probably talk a little bit better on that with one of his buddies.
All right, Duke.
Well, the magic bear incident. Interestingly, yeah, the magic bear. Magic bears during the cold parts of the season are hibernating, and when they're not, they're hungry. And when they see something little like that, it's a food source. It's not something they're going to cuddle up. Anybody that knows basic bear behavior would immediately laugh at this idea. Bears are not altruistic toward humans. You're a food source, or you're something to run away from. The other thing is that this child was actually in temperatures in the lower 30s, and it was raining the whole time that he was out there. He should have been dead. They should never have found him in good condition in a little thicket where they had just walked past a bunch of times looking for him, and then they find him there. And the third interesting point is that if you do follow up, the county where this happened hadn't had an actual bear sighting in over 30 years.
Yeah, that case is very, very intriguing to me, because the little boy, I think everybody is waiting for him to grow up, because apparently from what Butch Witkowski said, he's still talking about the teddy bear. He's still talking about the teddy bear, and they're just waiting for him to grow up and mature into his words a little bit to kind of get a real understanding of what happened. But the fact that the young boy's clothes were dry and it was raining, the fact that he had no markings on him outside of the scratches and the rips from the briar patch that he was put into, the fact that that area had already been searched for him and nobody had seen it with dogs. This is just amazing how this child did this. And I agree with you. I'm not a hunter, and I hang out with a lot of hunters, but the one thing that we do know is that when a bear, whether it's a black bear or a grizzly bear, wakes up from hibernation, it is cranky. It is crankier than any house cat or ex-wife you will ever meet up with. And, it's crankier than a Toronto Maple Leafs fan after the playoffs when the team gets eliminated once again. All right?
Oh. Not only are they cranky, they're hungry. If they wake up during the middle of the winter, they're hungry. They want to eat something.
They are.
If they wake up in the spring, they're super hungry. They want to eat something.
Let me throw something else at you there. Them dogs that was part of that search party was level 3 trained, same as my dog. And one of the officers came out and said that the dogs, not one dog, multiple dogs, had been within 20 yards of that thicket more than once. So we know that it wasn't in that thicket. Either that or there was something in that thicket that but he didn't say anything about adverse behavior of the dogs.
Mm-hmm. And it should also be noted, too, for people looking into this case, there was no physical or sexual abuse on this boy.
Nope.
There was nothing scarring abuse-wise that this child suffered. So that needs to be addressed as well. Eugene has a question here. Do you guys hunt or track Bigfoot at night or daytime only, or both?
Nope.
Go first? Okay. Yeah, me and my team kind of feel it's like a waste of time to walk around in the dark trying to find them. So we go run around during the day when we can find all their tracks and beautiful structures and stuff. And then they realize that we were walking around all day finding their tracks and structures. So they come back to camp and visit us. So we don't really need to go out at night because they're going to be right there checking us out the whole time.
Exactly. I tromp around in the daytime, and then at night I hunker down at my camp unless I know the area real well. And then I might forage around my camp, 150, 200 yards. But other than that, I tromp during the daytime because just like he says here at SOR, we own the night. Well, when you get in the woods down here in the South, they own the night.
Yep. Anywhere they own the night. Yeah, they have every advantage at night. They can see in the dark. They're super stealthy, super quiet. We have zero advantages at night. We're just totally disadvantaged. And the only thing we got that's worth a damn is our sight, and we can't even use that at night.
Yeah, and I agree totally because, at nighttime, I think during the days where you come across some tracks, you'll come across some structures, and at night, you might hear different sounds, you might see different eye shine. But thing, you don't know if it's a Bigfoot, you don't know if it's something else, something that Gary doesn't like to hear about from the woofter. So is this something that's really pretending to be Bigfoot and it coaxes you into believing that? Therefore, I think the daytime for true Bigfoot exploration is do it during the day.
Yeah. Ivy has a question, Duke, and you might be the one to answer this. Has anyone shown that child pictures of bears, wolves, etc., and see if the kid identifies one of those animals as the teddy bear?
Boy, I wish I knew the answer to that question. As far as I know, hasn't been done. It probably has been, but we just haven't heard what happened. Really, what I want them to do is wait until a kid's like 6, 7 years old and put a camera on his face and show him the Patterson-Gimlin film and get his reaction.
Now, the one thing that I learned from Butch Witkowski, this is still technically an open case.
Yes.
They are keeping this case open.
Plus PS laws also.
Yeah. Vinny is asking, what would be the next step if Bigfoot were proven real, gentlemen?
Legislation to prove them as a species and to get them protected, just like they're trying to do in Canada right now.
Yeah, and some countries are already acknowledged and protected. France and Germany both acknowledged them back in the 60s, Russia in 65. In China, they're well known. There's a preserve farm. They even teach kids in school that they're real. So again, this is a U.S. issue.
Yeah, and a Canadian issue as well.
North America. Basically, none of the countries in North America want to acknowledge.
But I also believe, too, that there's a lot of politics played with this. Not in trying to hide the creature, but let's face it, guys, especially up here in Canada, where we are a very, very big nation on export. Now, a lot of people who will, say we got to go to more energy efficient cars and trucks and whatever, that's a different argument for a different day. But you know what? Canadians still rely on exporting and digging for oil, cutting trees, and mining. That takes a lot of jobs here in this country, and it's out in the wilderness. And the big thing is, like, even talking to loggers in my area, they don't want to talk about it because they don't want their logging tenures pulled away. That's millions of dollars. Fishing areas. I don't think people fully understand the economic impact finding and proving a Sasquatch would really have.
Well, look at the spotted owl incident in northwest Oregon. Devastating.
Yeah, that's what they always use for control. But you got to keep in mind that at the moment where they try and say, well, we need to preserve all of these wilderness areas and protect them for Sasquatch to live there, most of the big wilderness areas in the lower 48 are already protected. People can't live there. They're already parks. They're already national forests. Logging is on a very limited basis. That may not be the case up in Canada, but there's logging here in Montana too. As a matter of fact, that and mineral extraction and tourism are the three things that drive this state. And up in northwest Montana, the Yak area, which is a lot like the Pacific Northwest, is a timber area. And all the loggers know the real. They call them timber apes. So at the point where the government says, okay, we got to, preserve all of these timber areas and stuff so that we can preserve you need to preserve every place, because the real researchers can make a case that they live everywhere. What are you going to do about the ones that live in the desert in the Southwest? They're all over the place there too. So that don't carry water. That's a hogwash argument.
All right, let's move over to And One. Welcome to our chat room. And One is asking, do you think they're more human or mammal? And can you speak with them?
I think they.
Oh yeah, they speak. I mean, look at the Sierra Sounds. They got their own language. I know several people that don't not only mind speak with them, but physically speak with them. Yeah, they can speak, sure.
Yeah, and they can understand us.
Oh yeah, a lot better than we can understand them. Even if you teach these guys to speak English and they can speak basic words in English, their voice is just so weird sounding and deep and gravelly. It's hard to even tell what word they're saying, even if they're saying the word properly, which is probably why they don't bother to learn English, because if they're yelling English at us, it would just scare the hell out of us.
Well, let's move on here, gentlemen. Yeah. Rob, what do you think? Let's get your opinion.
No, I believe that I believe Sasquatch. I think they kind of know. Let's face it, they've seen the human in the forest for thousands of years. They know what our language. I think they know what our language is and know what we're saying. And we had Ron Moorhead on a couple of months ago talking about the Sierra Sounds, and they were trying. They had an interpreter. They had a person from the technical university that knew the patterns. The patterns what they spoke about were actually, they phonetically was a language. It's a language that we couldn't interpret or decide what they were saying, but I'm pretty sure that they knew what we were saying. When they said we're going to get up and load out of camp, they knew what was going on. So in that instance, I think they know what we say, but we can't figure out what they say. People out there just have minds. Go ahead, Dave.
All right, let's move on. Queen Bee is asking, have any of you tried setting up gifting spots? I know I have 2 gifting sites. How about for you, gentlemen?
For my team, we don't give them anything. We just go bug them. I hope they put up with us. I've been in other areas where they were getting... I had one area where I was solo camping for about 3 months, and I was only about 150 yards from one of their favorite deer ambush spots. And they kept wanting to wander into camp, and that was getting very disturbing. So I left a couple of nice, yummy pork chops for their alpha to take, and after that, apparently, that was all it took, because they quit trying to come into camp after that. So he must have just went, hey, thanks for the bribe. I'll keep the boys out of your camp from now on, because the next 6 to 8 weeks, they didn't try to come into camp anymore. But other than that, I don't gift them anything, bribe them with anything. We just, we're very polite and respectful, and we go to where they're at and check out all their stuff. And when we find tracks and tree structures, we ooh and ah appropriately, because they're always watching you. So they're watching for that reaction when you find their 6-story X structure too. The ooh and ah a lot, they like that better.
I personally, with my team, and we don't gift. We have interaction sites. We like on stumps. We'll put like little marbles or something like that for them to play with. But we do not gift food. I don't even gift natural food because I've heard too many horror stories of them getting mad when you stop, and I don't want to do that. Plus, we don't know if we give them any kind of processed food, we don't know what it's going to do to their system. So I just interaction spots. I'm big about taking old CDs, hanging them from a tree. Either them and the cats too. You can put a trail camera and you'll see a bunch of like bobcats going up and playing with the CDs. But we do interaction spots. We don't do gifting spots.
Glow sticks and stuff. They seem to like that kind of stuff too, and like little bells, like jingle bells for sleighs and stuff. Yeah. Hang that kind of stuff up. They'll play with that kind of stuff. They'll take it sometimes because they have so much fun with it.
Not at mine. My one site has gone completely boring. Completely boring. I just haven't had the guts yet to pull it out just in case. It's been pretty dead and inactive for the last couple of years. Although last year I thought maybe something was starting to happen because in between the trees, a tree branch, because the trees are real tight, we kind of got it in this circle. And in between two of the trees, there was a tree branch kind of like shoved in between. It couldn't have fallen through there. It had to be shoved. So I was like, oh, okay, maybe we got something here at the original one again, and then nothing. None of my cars have moved, nothing.
Do you have game cam up there, or is it unobserved?
It's unobserved.
Okay, well, that's not stopping them from being there. It could be that you just found a travel corridor that they don't use all that often. That's what happens sometimes. You find a spot where they're around, and it's like, they don't show up again for a long time.
This is a site where we have found two different size prints. We found my buddy Mike found an 18-inch print up on the gravel road, and out in the forest by where the gifting site is, in a dirt area, we found a 15-inch print. And so that's why we set up the area right there. I still think what happened, Duke, is close to that area in 2017, that's where the forest fires ripped through. And I think that really disturbed their entire habitat, and it really hasn't pushed there. That's why I'm hesitant on actually moving the gifting site out of there, because in case they do come back, it's something familiar.
Right. Give it 3 more years.
3 more?
Yeah. When you get
it takes a while for everything to grow back after it burns off. And then as soon as the little stuff starts growing in, all the small game comes in, then it's really attractive to them to be back.
Yes. And last year was the first time my buddy Mark and we'd gone through there, and that was the first time in 3 years that we had actually seen deer on the road and animal tracks on the road in that area. So like you could see, it's funny watching coyotes, because if anybody's been out in the forest and watches coyotes, they find the tallest rock to poop on. It's the funniest thing. It's like, look, I'm the big guy on campus. Look where I put my poop, and it's true though. I mean, you can't even argue about that. It's so true.
The coyote saying, "Let the wafting of my poop stench warn the rest of the woods. My mightiness is here."
Oh, it's hilarious.
It is that my dog goes and hides. He'll back up into a brush pile.
Oh yeah, but we found a lot of deer tracks, cat tracks, and bear tracks in that area where we hadn't seen them in a long time. So that's why I haven't moved the gifting site as of yet. I may add to it. It's a trip to the dollar store to go get some CDs and some mirrors.
There you go.
So I may add to it. So, yeah.
Dave, if I was you, what I would do is just keep that area and keep monitoring, but try and find other area nearby. And if you want some help with that, I'll just take a look at Google Earth and go, look here. That's how I find my areas. I do topo maps and Google Earth. That's how I find the areas I want to research.
On that logging, the burn down here, we don't have the great big swaths of logging that y'all have. We'll have 70 acres or 80 acres or 100 acres, and they go in and clear cut it. And when they do, we just go to the edges, because you'll literally see them walking the edges. I'll find tracks and sign of them walking the edges, around the edges. They like 6 to 8 foot at least cover. So if you do see one crossing the logging area, it's usually going to have 8 foot, and that's usually about 3 3 to 6 years of growth on a second generation growth. We see a lot of that, and like Duke said, when you start getting that growth, when all the small, I call them down here, we call them varmints, but they'll come back in, and then that's when the Squatch comes back in. You know,
the what? The what? The what comes back in?
Sorry, accents coming in.
Did he say the Squatch word?
He did. Hey,
I would chime in real.
Hey,
I would chime in real quick too on the gifting.
You know how I am about the woo word, and you are about the Squatch word. So I've been real good. But yeah, I'd give it about another 2 or 3 years, and they'll be back in there pretty thick.
Very true. Very true. Rob, go ahead.
Now, I was going to chime in on the gifting too real quick. In fact, the last couple of weeks I've talked to several people regarding gifting, and if you're doing the toys or colored balls or whatever, I've spoke to a couple of people where they had gifted actual food for several months, and apparently, we don't know, right? If Sasquatch was taking their food, but, and I think this has actually been reported on several reports out there that once you continue or you stop giving them food,
Rob, you're breaking up real bad right now, buddy.
Then there was reports.
You're breaking up real bad again. Yeah, I apologize, man.
All right, so continue on.
All right, you look good though. You look good on camera for our YouTube audience. That's the main thing.
I look fantastic.
We've got about 2.5 minutes here before we have to go to break here on Spaced Out Radio. We got Gary Spikes Jr., Duke Sullivan, and Bigfoot Rob, who looks great on camera, people. You have to trust us if you're on Radio Land watching this. You really do have to trust us on that one. Literally, the guy looks like Rick Harrison from Pawn Stars. It's hilarious. They could be, I think they're blood brothers somewhere on that. But going on with the whole gifting site aspect, there's a lot of people who in the field who don't believe this should be used as a way of communication, or you got the people who've never tried it but just, I don't believe in that garbage. Nothing hurts. That type of investigation does not hurt. Do you guys see it that way as well?
Duke, you're muted.
I only draw the line at feeding them myself. I definitely see it that way. There's nothing saying that you can't leave them little trinkets or toys or, colored gems or coins, whatever, any kind of thing to see if they're interested and they want to interact with it. That's not causing any problems. When you start feeding them and they expect to be fed all the time, that's when problems start. And the other thing to keep in mind is that, if you feed a bear all the time, are you expecting that the bear is going to be suddenly tame and you can go up and pet it just because you're feeding it? Probably not. And there's an additional problem with these guys. They're way smarter than bears are. What if they're not taking it as food? They're thinking it's tribute. Yeah. You owe them tribute. Why are you not giving me tribute? Then they're going to get really mad. And we don't know exactly what their mindset is. So, you are really risking your life if you're giving them food items, unless you're really confident on what the interaction is going to be and hopefully how they're going to take that. I wouldn't do it regularly for sure.
The food thing we haven't tried up here. It wouldn't work up here. Too many animals.
Yeah, that's the other thing. You don't know who's grabbing the food. It could be them. It could be something else.
That's right. Gary, we got 30 seconds.
In our situation, my grandmother used to do a garden for what she called the forest animals. From our regular, but she was Native American. But when you drive around Yellowstone Park and all of the major state and national parks around here, and it says, don't feed the bears, they need to have another one sign right beside it that says, don't feed the Wookiees. It's not good. I've heard too many bad stories. Duke's just laughing there. But it's true. I love the idea of stimulation, different colored things, glow sticks, stuff like that, puzzles. But food, no. It can't be good. I don't think it'd lead up to anything good.
I must admit, I would try peanut butter. Just to see. But that's about it. We got Duke Sullivan. We got Gary Spikes Jr. We got Bigfoot Rob. We got him for another 30 minutes. We're talking Sasquatch all night long here on Spaced Out Radio. Stay tuned for hour number 3. All right, gentlemen. We are back. Hey, Jan Yannick and Dickens, I really do appreciate the super chats and the support and everything, but let's keep the comments to a mature rating, not a rated R rating, because we do have a lot of people in here who are here every single night and they enjoy the show and they don't come on in for disparaging remarks. And I'm not giving you crap or anything like that. Just remember, there's other people in here who want to enjoy the show and may not appreciate that type of potty humor. I laugh because I think it's, I have a twisted sense of humor, but other people may not see it the same way that I do. So not giving you guys crap or anything like that. Just if you don't mind toning it down, I greatly appreciate it. And I know you guys are enjoying the show. So I thank you so much for all the super chats and everything. I really do appreciate it. All right. I'm going to step away, guys. Hey, Joshua, you guys chat away. You guys have the audience.
I do got to give them credit, though. They didn't start doing that until the 15-year-old young gentleman left. That was cool. I will give these guys that. Yeah, some of them I'm even over here going, wow.
Well, I'm going to go have part of a cigarette here, Gary. You take over. And
oh, here we go again. I guess I'm
quit impressing me, or I'm going to have you on my show.
I guess I'll take over Dave's position. Gordon Crawford, I want to be a huge garden for Bigfoot around the big farms so they leave the farms alone. Good point. That's been some of the, I've heard people doing that down here, in the South, especially down around Mississippi and Alabama. Feed your head, not the Wookiee. Good one, Bomber. Let's see. Sonder. I get a kick out of this one. It was to me and Dave when we first got on, our alliance together in our first show. Woo is not a word for me. I don't like it. And him's Squatch. And it's just slang terms. That's all it is. And I do understand that some people are offended by that, and I apologize. But then she puts on there, how do you put that, woo or Squatch woo or woo Squatch? That was hilarious. I don't think Dave caught it. Let's see. Long Island Bigfoot. Yes, that was a bad situation. Not a bad situation, but a scheduling issue. He will be back on before too long. We're working on that as we speak. Hello, Sonder Heath. How are you doing? It does, Joshua. Woo, it does grow on you. I do got to say it. I've got to deal with it now because I am part of the woo train. I'm part of a great opportunity being part of Spaced Out Radio. I'm having so much fun doing this and learning so much, and it's great to be part of this family. It's a great experience for me and opportunity for me. Vinny, BMR. I don't know what that is. Joshua S. Dace makes some really good jokes with it, that's for sure. He sure does. He's a nut when it comes to that. Contour Cosmique, is that how you say that? You wanted so much to be part of the woo. Well, I'm still on the borderline. Hanging around with Duke and them, I'm learning every day. There are multiple aspects to this subject matter, from one extreme to the other. I'm kind of in the middle right now. Woos transform you. I can't believe that. Thank you. Eugene Braxton, America's most experienced mistress. Mr. Spikes is a well-spoken young man. Thank you for being well-spoken, and thank you on the young. I'm over 40, but yeah, I guess you could say I'm young. I don't feel it half the time. Bigfoot Michigan Rob. I am BMR. Oh, I got you. Okay. Yeah, get your butt back on here, Rob. I'm missing you already. Vinny, thank you. Good show. It'd be a good show, Dave. Dave's the boss. I'm the muscle, I guess you'd say, or the carry the stuff. I don't think we have a choice about woo anymore. Rafaela, that's a good point. We're seeing a lot more of that coming out in the community, even in the cryptid community for sure. A lot more of the supernatural coming out in this. Cosmic Tour, P3 Productions, Oklahoma's great. I have family in Elk City. Oh yeah, I'm out in Elk City quite a bit, tracking, and I like to go out there and chase around the groundhogs with small caliber rifles.
Hey, I want to follow up on the comment that PBR Street Gang made earlier.
Go ahead.
And by the way, that's a great username. Anybody that references Apocalypse Now with their username is cool in my book. But part of the problem with getting a decent, clear picture of them is nobody's using film cameras anymore. They're using digital cameras. And as you well know, unless you got it on HD setting, which most people aren't taking pictures in HD, if you try and zoom in on it, all you get is pixelated garbage. And even Bobo Fay from Finding Bigfoot has mentioned that before, how he wishes some of the researchers would actually use old-fashioned film cameras, because when you get something on it, you can actually zoom in on the picture and have a clear image to look at. And you just can't do that with digital unless you've got HD. As soon as you try and zoom in on it, it turns to pixelated garbage. So that's part of the problem. Even if you can catch them on the side of the frame or something where they're not blurring out the camera, then they're way the hell back there, and you've still got to zoom in on them, and it pixelates the picture. So really, it'd be great if some of these better researchers that actually start using film cameras occasionally would getting more stuff that we could actually zoom in on and get clearer images of.
And I appreciate it. We're going to get going here in about 20 seconds. Big hello to Brody from Manitoba listening in tonight. Really appreciate you listening in, Brody. Thank you so much for joining us. If you want to join us in the YouTube chat, just go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. That's where the majority of our chatters are. That would be great. We're going to get going here in 5 seconds, guys, so stay tuned.
Mute myself.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for joining us. Really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Paduasoy. Paduasoy is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. For the final time tonight, we introduce our panel of Sasquatch researchers. We got Duke Sullivan. We got Gary Spikes Jr. Gary Spikes helps us out with Spaced Out Radio. Duke is the man behind World Bigfoot Radio on YouTube. And somewhere out there in television land, I'm gonna check. I just got a text message from Bigfoot Rob, and he's been battling the internet all day. He is he's making a call to Cable Guy Matt. That is what he is doing. He needs some free coaxial cable from Cable Guy Matt. And you know what? We're going to continue on till he can get booted back up again. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Really do appreciate it. I think one of the biggest flaws that we make in researching Sasquatch is from the Indigenous culture. I really do. And, you know, I think too many times we have too many researchers out there that are literally ignoring these stories, these legends, these tales over the years of what the Indigenous have to say about this. And they have some incredible stories. I remember a story close to where I grew up in the Chehalis area near Harrison Hot Springs, which is famous for Sasquatch study, where, you know, the Chehalis tribe back in the 1930s had a young lady go missing, and she was kidnapped by a Sasquatch, and they couldn't find her for 4 months until the warriors from the tribe, they literally went up into the mountain and they found her in a cave. And she'd been gone so long, she had already forgotten her native language. And she was speaking in Sasquatch. Well, they kidnapped her back. And this Sasquatch chased the warriors with her back down the mountain through the Chehalis River. They canoed and paddled back to their village. and they had everybody lock up the village. And for 2 weeks, that Sasquatch terrorized the village until it finally gave up. Like, nobody came out of their huts and their homes because they didn't want to deal with this pissed off Sasquatch. Now, Gary, I want to start with you on this one. Do you have any real Indigenous stories that you could share with us about this creature?
All I'm going to say is I'm in Oklahoma. That should be enough. Anybody in the lower 48 knows that Oklahoma is like the melting pot of the First Nations. There's lots of them. I mean, when you're talking about that story, it's one of the first stories I remember, one of our most famous, and we're pretty sure that it's based on true, is the story of Captain LaFleur. They named LaFleur County, which also happens to be where we have most of our sightings in southeastern Oklahoma, where him and he was a captain over a band of First Nation scouts, and they actually battled a clan of Bigfoot. And I'm not going to get too deep into the story because it's pretty bloody and gory. There's like a bunch of them killed and stuff like that. And then we have old stories of dogmen. We have a lot of stories of the kidnap and I don't want to get too deep into that, but kidnapping and crossbreeding attempts. And one of our more recent stories comes from here in the early, I think it's 50s. A lady just southwest of us, would literally she's a First Nations lady, and I think she was mentally handicapped, but she was saying she had taken a mattress and was putting it out on the back of her property and having relations with big hairy men of the forest, and she was First Nations. And I mean, it's rampant. And you had a very good point, Dave, of and I'm going to leave Duke into this. You need to get Caveman on here if you want to hear the First Nation stories, but we really need to go because these people have been here, indigenous to this area, and with not having the written language, they have that oral history and pass that down. There's a wealth of knowledge there that I think a lot of researchers overlook.
Duke, what's your thoughts on that, buddy?
I got some definite stories on that one. There's the mirroring the one you were talking about is Seraphine Long. Who was kidnapped by a young Sasquatch. He had her in a cave for about 6 months and wouldn't let her out. And finally, she convinced him to let her go because she was getting so sick she was going to die. And she told him, basically, you got to bring me back to my people or I'm going to die anyway. And he got some pitch or resin from a tree and glued her eyes shut so she couldn't see where she was going, threw her over his shoulder, apparently carried her across the river at some point, brought her back to her people, and she recovered and told them the whole epic story of how he had kept her in this cave for 6 months. Now, an even more disturbing and terrifying story is the natives of the Great Slave Lake up in where you live in Canada, who had such lousy relations with the neighboring whatever they were that lived in the woods. And I'm not entirely sure it was even Bigfoot. It could have been Guggeries or something. But they wouldn't live on the shore. They lived on an island out in Great Slave Lake for about a century. And they said the reason they lived there is so these things on shore couldn't attack them because they had been killing all their braves. And apparently at some point they got enough of a population together again where they had enough braves that they went on the offensive and started wiping out these guys on shore. And then they moved back on shore again. And of course, all the anthropologists and stuff thought this was total malarkey until they went out to this island and did some digging and found out, yeah, they were living out here for about a century. And then they moved back to the mainland for some reason. Well, according to their story, that's the reason.
Duke, the famous the Dual Mountain, the Dual Hill story, where they had the battle and dug the trench. That's one of the more famous. That was in the Navajo country, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, they got all kinds of legends about it down there too. This also figures into some of the mountain giant stories.
Yeah,
where that one young Indian brave was out, or native brave, whatever you prefer. They're American Indians. He was out with his hunting party, and the older guys were all busy asleep, snoring, making noise. And he was younger, and he woke up because he heard this weird piercing whistle. So he got up and went out in the woods to see what it was. And he said this giant with glowing red eyes spotted him right away and grabbed him and carried him for miles. And it was making this high-pitched whistling sound all the time. And finally, it came to this one area and stopped, made a different whistle, and this hole in the ground opened up. And there was a ladder there. He went down about 100 feet or so into the ground. There was an underground cave there, and they had this whole entrance to this thing camouflaged. And there was another giant down there like this. And there was an Indian maiden down there who was apparently also being kept captive by them. And at some point, she came out and did some singing and stuff. And they were all, both of them were very impressed. And she got a chance to get near this young kid. She passed him a note that said, "They're going to eat you. Get out as soon as you can." And so that very night, he waited until they weren't paying any attention. He climbed up to the entrance, and using his little pocket knife, he carved a hole next to where the actual entrance was, skinny enough for him to slip out, and he got away. And apparently he was wandering around the woods for the better part of a week before he found a lumberjack camp, and they took him back to where he lived. And of course, everybody was highly incredulous of his story, but it was well known in the area that he lived in that this kid never lied about anything, didn't make up stories. So it was very out of character for him to disappear for a week and then, come back and, well, these things kidnapped me. That was pretty strange.
It is very strange. And, I look at, a friend of mine back when I was at home in the Lower Mainland, his brother lived in a cabin out in the forest up in the mountains. And his brother would tell stories of this clan of 5 Sasquatch, a family, a male, female, and 3 childlike Sasquatches, because his cabin was so far up, he didn't have a lock on the door, didn't need one. Yeah. But the problem is the Sasquatch would come in the middle of the night when he's sleeping, and they would bring him out to the fire pit, and they'd have a fire going in the pit, and they would sit with him. And he'd wake up and he'd just be silent. He'd be kind of looking around, and he'd be like, "How did I get out here?" And he would see the family, and he's so spooked he wouldn't move, but the family would just enjoy a campfire with him in the fire pit. Like, could you imagine being carried out of your bed and brought out, "Hey, we're going to have a fire here. Why don't you come join us?"
Actually, Caveman has a story similar to that. When he was a kid, him and his cousin used to sleep on the porch because this is down in New Mexico. It's hotter than you know what. So even at night, sleep outside where it's a little bit breezy and not ridiculously hot. And they started noticing when they would get up in the morning, his cousin would be like a few yards away from the porch where he went to sleep. And they couldn't figure out what was causing this strange anomaly. So at one point, they got really smart and they decided they would take a rope and they'd tie it to both their ankles. So when something moved his cousin, it would move him. So sure enough, in the middle of the night, Caveman wakes up, his leg is getting yanked up in the air, and he looks up, and there's a Sasquatch that's got his cousin cradling him like a baby, picking him up. And it realizes that the kid's leg is tied to Caveman's leg, and Caveman's not awake looking at him. So it drops his cousin, which wakes his cousin up, and he's like, "Hey, what the..." And then both of them are awake looking at the Sasquatch right there. And they immediately freak out and try and get in the door. And they both can't get in the door at the same time. So they're fighting with each other, trying to shove each other out of the way to be the first one to get in the door. And they can't run because they got their leg tied together. So they keep tripping and falling all over the place. And it's like, it took them like the better part of a couple minutes to actually fight their way into the door. By then, the Sasquatch was long gone. But they did tell the older people they didn't want to sleep out on the porch anymore.
No kidding. I had a story a couple of years ago. I run a ghost tour at the local museum, and we have this one building where we come in and we allow people to tell their own spooky stories before we go into another building for the ghost hunt. And this one gentleman, he was real shy, and his wife was kind of egging him on. "Come on, tell him the story. Tell him the story." And finally, he said, "You're probably not going to believe me." He goes, "But when I was 18 years old," and this guy's probably in his early 60s at this point, he goes, "We were camping. My buddy and I were camping on a fishing trip just north of Whistler, British Columbia, and Pemberton. There's a lot of Sasquatch sightings around there. And they had their tent set up. And he said, all of a sudden in the middle of the night, him and his buddy were woken up because it felt like forklift arms went underneath the tent, lifted the tent, and they started getting startled because both of them are being lifted up. And here they are being lifted up. The tent pegs are shooting like ping, ping, and the tent is now collapsing on top of them while they're being lifted up. They start squirming and screaming and what's going on. And all of a sudden, the arms just put them back down on the ground. Tent collapses. They hear the thud, thud, thud of the footprints of the feet walking away. And they got up and they got the hell out of there. They packed up their car. We're out. So the following week, his buddy goes back to that same spot. His dad is in a single cab vehicle truck this is in the 70s. And the boys are in the back sleeping in the camper. Well, all of a sudden, middle of the night, the whole truck starts rocking. And Dad has the shotgun in the car. He wakes up. He sees this big black thing, hairy, furry, with the glowing eyes, shaking the truck. And he fires a shot, hits this thing, and this thing runs right into the forest. No blood trail, no nothing. Wow. Said they'd never been back to that area since.
Well, I do know in 2018 when I went back to the site where I had my sighting, my dad went with me, Randy Arrington and Shane Carpenter from Ozark Mountain Sasquatch. Something came up the ridge, grabbed a hold of the corner of my dad's tent. Him and his girlfriend was in it asleep and spun it about 3 foot around. The next morning, me and Shane Carpenter found a 16-inch track on the downhill slope of that, and I couldn't get down that slope. Shane and my dog followed that trackway for 3/4 of a mile. I do know they'll mess with your tents, and now I sleep in a hammock half the time. We call it a Bigfoot burrito with my big buddy.
3 burritos.
Throw them over the shoulder.
I got 2 really alarming ones that the guys down in Australia told me. They get out there and do Yowie research. And
yeah.
One of them, they had a camp set up, and this is in a really heavily wooded area. And one of them, something was messing with the top of his tent. And he couldn't figure out what was going on because he hadn't heard anything walking around the tent. There wasn't any, footsteps or anything. And all of a sudden, a branch snapped and something literally fell on the tent, knocked the tent down, squashed them. And then whatever it was got up, made like a grunt and took off into the woods again. Well, there ain't a whole lot of animals in Australia that are big enough to fall on your tent and collapse it. Whatever it was directly above the tent, hanging on a branch, reaching down apparently and jiggling the top of the tent, and the branch snapped. The other one that's even worse is they were again in a Yowie area, and they were doing some research there. And one of the guys had a really big tent. It was, like 8-man, 10-man, some gigantic. Had the double wide air mattress and the cooler and, all kinds of everything you can imagine in this glamping tent. And in the middle of the night, something grabbed the corner of the tent and started dragging it across the campground with everything in it. And the tent collapsed. The guy inside is screaming. It wakes everybody else up. And when they all wake up and start yelling, whatever it was, dropped the tent, took off into the woods. But he had dragged this tent most of the way across the clearing, almost to the edge of the woods, by the time everybody else reacted and made a ruckus, and he gave up on it.
And people wonder why I don't sleep in tents.
No You're no better off in a tree burrito. They just throw you over your shoulder and run off with you like Albert Osman.
My wife said something the other day. She said, how they call them McDonald's or something, a heart attack in a sack? Well, that's you when that Bigfoot slings you over your shoulders because you're going to have a heart attack and you're in the sack.
Very true. Very, very true. I like Brody's comment. Brody's from Manitoba. He makes a comment. Bigfoot is just Shrek living in a swamp to me.
Very well put. Leave me alone. Yeah,
pretty much.
Well, if you saw the size of the mosquitoes in Manitoba, you'd probably think that Bigfoot would have just snacks all over the place, just feeding himself.
Dave, I told you about my best friend's from Manitoba, right? He just come to Oklahoma. Yeah, he's a dual citizen. And we was up there one time, and I seen 2 mosquitoes, and we was sitting on one side of the river fishing. Matter of fact, we was on the spillway coming out of Lake Manitoba. And the one mosquito looked at the other one and said, should we eat him over here or take him across the river? And the other mosquito said, we don't want to take him over there. They're bigger than me. I didn't wait around. I ran from them like I would a Sasquatch. Them mosquitoes up there don't carry. If they can carry my butt off, they're doing something. That's supposed to be a joke, folks.
Go to the old Paul Bunyan lumberjack stories from northern Minnesota. They have illustrations of the lumberjacks fighting the giant mosquitoes with double-bitted axes. They're not much better up there.
Gentlemen, we have about 4.5 minutes to go here before we have to say goodnight to you guys. And it's been one heck of a fun show so far. I could guarantee you that. And we've enjoyed the stories that you have shared with us so far here tonight. As we move forward with Sasquatch, Duke, give us one final good tale in 4 minutes here that could really trip us out for the rest of the night.
Wow, a good trippy story. There's so many of them out there. What are you thinking? Paranormal, scary? What? Be specific, Dave.
Wherever you want to go, man. I'll leave it up to you.
Wherever I want to go. Did I tell you the story about the Gugwe that went after the guy's dogs up there in northern Manitoba?
No, let's hear that one.
That's one of my favorite ones. This guy's a Bigfoot researcher for 50 years and kept getting these weird reports of some other thing that didn't match up with what Bigfoot's supposed to be. Finally found my channel and went, oh, bleep. Those are those Gugwe things. They match the description exactly. Well, then he sent me the reports he had actually gathered because he didn't know what to make of them. And one of them, this guy was hearing noises over by his dog pen. And the dog pen was behind the garage, right on the edge of the wood line. So far enough away from the house that it wasn't right next to it or anything. And he goes outside. The dogs are raising a ruckus. And they've got a concrete slab with a big chain link fence around it, complete enclosed. And there's something outside of the chain link fence that's standing there messing with them. The dogs are going nuts. So he doesn't clearly see what it is. He figures it's a bear standing on its hind legs. Takes a couple shots at it. It roars and runs off in the woods. Next night, repeat performance. Only this time the dogs are really going nuts. And he hears one of them yelp. And hears like stuff being torn up. Grabs a gun, goes out the door. Same thing is there apparently. This time it's actually ripped the chain link fence open. It's got one of the dogs dead under its arm. And it's trying to reach in and grab the other one, which is now hysterical. This time the guy puts 3 rounds in it with his 30-06, and it roars again, takes off into the woods. Now this time he's pretty sure he's hit it. So he calls his buddies and said, something just killed one of my dogs. I need your help over here. As soon as the sun comes up, bring your high-powered rifles. Let's go track down whatever this thing is and kill it. So they get there first thing in the morning, and these guys, easily find the trail and even some blood from the dog where it, apparently snapped the dog's neck and was carrying it off. And they followed it out in the woods for about a quarter mile, and then they completely lost the trail. They couldn't find it. It just disappeared. And these guys are all good, hunters, tracking skills, couldn't find it. So after about 2 hours of doing circles and trying to pick up the trail, they gave up. They came back. When they got back to his house, the head of the missing dog was sitting on his front porch.
I'd be going to war.
That's it. That is just creepy.
That's why my dog sleeps with me.
Oh, my God. Could you imagine?
These are big Alaskan Malamute dogs, too. These aren't little, ankle biter chihuahuas or something. These are huge dogs.
That's the first thing people ask me, because everybody knows that my dog's highly trained and all that. But they ask me, I trained my dog not to bark in the woods unless I give it a signal, for the simple fact they don't like barking dogs, because I truly believe that they will alert us to their presence. We hear stories all the time of them ripping dogs up down here. Matter of fact, I just took a report 2 weeks ago about one. They found the dog in the tree, in the fork of a tree.
That seems to be literally true. They tend to ignore the dogs that are quiet and mild-mannered, and they really hate the ones that are loud and give their presence away. Absolutely. And aggressive.
Absolutely.
Gentlemen, we have 1 minute to go here with you guys tonight, and thank you so much for coming on in and putting together this great Bigfoot panel. We really do appreciate all of you guys coming on in. Duke, let us know in 15 seconds, where can people find World Bigfoot Radio?
On YouTube, BitChute, Rumble, and Odyssey. I'm doing a full expedition this coming weekend, so there'll be video coming up on that. And since Rob is having audio problems, go check out Brunch with Bigfoot. His show is cool.
It is very cool. Brunch with Bigfoot with Big Tex, who has probably one of the best beards in the Bigfoot business. Isn't that right, Rob?
It's the greatest show. Part of it. And again, Duke has a great show. P3 Productions, SOR. You can also find me at Bigfoot Michigan Rob, and I'll give you updates on Brunch with Bigfoot and Tex.
And just like that, his audio cuts out at the last moment. And thank you, Gary Spikes Jr. Always appreciate you and all the work you're doing behind the scenes with Spaced Out Radio. Much love. Bigfoot Rob, Gary Spikes Jr., Duke Sullivan. Coming up next, we have, oh yes, the Magic 8 Ball We'll take your questions.
Sweet.
And, of course, the news and the thought of the day. Stay tuned. All right, gents, we're clear.
Thank God I got my audio to work. That was like total last minute. I mean, the show's literally on, and I'm like, "Gee, I don't gotta get that to work."
I felt bad for Bigfoot Rob. I don't know what's with your internet connection today, man.
Well, you guys. Well, we have a storm coming on through here now. I just noticed, and I'm getting new cable actually on Thursday because I don't know what's up with the audio because normally I don't have these problems, and now you can probably hear me.
Yeah.
Or no?
Yeah, we can hear you. Thanks for waiting till the bitter end there, Rob.
We love you, Rob.
He just didn't want to talk. He just wanted to show that beautiful face.
And he doesn't look exactly like that.
No, man.
Guy. He's more buff.
Yeah, thanks, Duke. You always make mention of that. He is a flabby ass, I think. I don't know.
Gee whiz. Gee whiz. You dirty bastards. Can't even compete with it.
Hey. No, you look fine. I finally had Taco Bell for the first time like 4 weeks ago. So, Dave,
You
sorry to
bastard.
say.
It's been about 3 weeks since I had Taco Bell. One of my guys at work, he's like, "Hey, I got to run down to Kamloops in order to pick up some stuff." I looked at him and I said, "Don't even bother showing up if you're not bringing Taco Bell with you." Well, no, I got to make a quick turnaround. I'm not going to have time. I'm going to be back here. No. What part of the message are you not getting? Okay.
Yeah.
Bring back some Taco Bell.
Cooler. Yeah, I'll keep just finding a cooler. I can read it later. Bring it with you.
Get you down here and get you a hold of some Taco Casa, and you'll forget all about Taco Bell.
You have no idea. You have no idea to my addiction.
Actually, Gary Tex was saying when I come down and see him one day in Texas, he got this great place to take me to.
Taco Casa.
Authentic Mexican food. Is that what it is?
Taco Casa. We our last Bigfoot expedition down on the Brown Springs, we went through a portal. We told my dad to Taco Casa. We drove like 2 hours to go kick Taco Casa.
Damn.
We did bring it back though. My dad was like, "Oh man, I'm mad at y'all." And then when I handed him a taco, he was like, "Okay, I'm not mad no more."
Good stuff.
That's fatherly love right there.
Oh, we have a good time. I tell people I've got a great experience being able to share this with my father and my wife. I mean, it's a family affair for us because we've been around them, so much down here. But
Jordan says, "Dave, I'll build you a Taco Bell next to your house for you. Please do. Please do.
Buy stock into it. There you go."
Oh,
Dave will support you by himself. Just build the thing next to his house.
I can't handle the Taco Bell. I like it, but it don't like me.
that's the whole purpose.
But it's funny you're saying that because I was talking to my buddy from Manitoba, and he says Taco Bell and McDonald's and everything up there is different than it is here.
It is.
That's because we have to use real meat.
It's got to be
food.
different.
Yeah. The quality is way different up there.
Oh yeah, Taco Time is good. Up here we have Taco Time too. Taco Time is
When
good.
I was in high school, we had Taco Plaza back when I was in high school, right before Taco Bell.
Yeah.
And that was awesome. I love that Taco Bell.
All right, gents, I got to go get ready for the news. Much love to each and every one of you. Thanks for coming in on short notice. Really do appreciate it. I think we nailed a damn good show tonight. I really do.
Thanks for having me back on again, Dave.
Yeah, it
Always
was
a
great.
time.
Thanks, Dave.
Yes, Edmonton, we have donaires. Thanks, Dirty Filth. Donaires. I had a donaire for lunch today. It's awesome. All right, guys. You guys take care.
What's that? Is that from what? France? A donaire.
Okay.
On that note, we're out of here. We're out of here. Much love, guys.
Love you, Dave. Love you, Dave.
See you, Rob. There he goes. Oh, I love those guys. That's a good time. That is a good time. Fapster, I'm telling you right now, I am so taking you up on that. He says, I so want to go on a bender to Taco Bell with Dave, just wreck it at like 3 a.m. I am so in, my friend. I am so in. Yeah, that's a good evening for me. That's a very good evening for me. Here we go, everyone. Get your questions ready. Put them in capital letters for the 8-ball. Here we go as we've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for joining us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are around this beautiful planet we call Earth. Want to remind you that if you've missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. It is time for the Magic 8-Ball. Let's have some fun tonight with the audience. All right, so what we do at this point of the night is we get the audience, if you're in our chat rooms, to ask some questions in capital letters. And we're going to get a little psychic, a little intuitive here as we bring in the Magic 8-Ball to answer all questions that we need to have answered. What do we need answered? What about aliens? What about Bigfoot? How about that ghost that seems to haunt you every time you're in the shower and your towel goes missing? So we're going to start off with Gary here from P3 Productions. He is asking, will I ever have hair as nice as Dave's? And trust me, Dave has nice hair. If you haven't seen us on YouTube yet, you'd like my hair. Let's be honest. There's very few things that I am proud of in life. My hair is one of them. So let's find out. Gary, what does this say here? Signs point to yes, Gary. You can have hair like me. Soft, manageable, flowing. Okay? My advice to you, just wash twice a week. Let the natural oils of your hair take over from there. So I believe the Magic 8-Ball so far is 1 for 1. Stella is asking, will I see an alien and not just a UFO? Well, let's find out, Magic 8-Ball. What do you say there? And the answer that the Magic 8-Ball is saying is ask again later. So basically what's that saying to you, Stella, is it's not your time yet to see that extraterrestrial. No, it's not your time. It may be one day, just not right now in the near future. But you got to put it out there to the universe that you want this to happen. You want it to be one with you, one with the aliens. Put out some Zen, sprinkle a little chi on the side. It might just work for you. So there we go. All right, let's get to Sandra's question. Sandra on Vancouver Island is asking, will I get to drive a UFO? Let's see here. Sandra, Intel looks good, according to the Magic 8-Ball. Intel looks good. Now, I can't determine a date as of yet, but like all psychics out there, I'll say it's 8, 10, 12, 14 months down the road. You know, and then when that time comes, I'll say, well, something bad happened. And, you know, your chakras weren't aligned with Mercury retrograde, and now you're going to have to wait another 6, 8, 10, 12 months. But it's going to happen, Sandra. It's going to happen. I promise you that. Eva is asking, what about the money? What about the money? What money? Seriously, what money are we talking about here? Dave could use some money. What about the money? Magic 8 Ball didn't like that question, Eva, and says, I'm in hypersleep. Hypersleep. All right. Sasquatch is asking, does excessive taco consumption cause male pattern baldness? The answer. This is how I know the Magic 8 Ball is on par for tonight. And Magic 8 Ball says, my sources say no. My sources say no. Excessive taco consumption is very good for you. Don't let anybody try to tell you different. Ever. There are certain staples in life. Bacon. Cold pizza for morning breakfast. Not breakfast for dinner. Okay? And tacos. All right. The lovely Oria Marie is asking, will I engage in interdimensional travel one day? Mr. 8 Ball, don't count on it. Don't count on it. I don't think any of us, unless you're like between the ages of 0 and maybe 20, are going to get that chance. I think it's a young kid's game right now, and we're not going to get that chance. Is it happening out there? I do believe it is happening out there. But is it part of our game? Something that we get to do? No. Not right now. All right. Queen Bee is asking, does Bigfoot want to make friends with humans? Reply hazy. Try again later. Oh, we're starting to wind down here. That's how I know. The minute the reply hazies come in, I know we're getting close to the end of the night for the Magic 8 Ball. Come on, Magic 8 Ball. We need some juice here. We put enough energy into you. Not today, Sheriff. Not today. They don't want anything to do with us right now. We're too stupid. I'm sure they got trash bags everywhere from the amount of garbage and litter we put in the forest. Yeah, they don't want anything to do with us. That's why they keep hiding, much like the aliens. Michael Haywood is asking, Sandra, can you drive a straight drive UFO? I think she is also in for, a 6-speed, automatic with the toggle switches, much like a nice Corvette. Sandra, by the way, is asking, will I win the lotto? Now, if you're going for that 70 mil on Friday there, Sandra, you may have to compete with me on that one. Infinitely, yes. One day you will win the lottery. You heard it here first, Sandra. The Magic 8 Ball never lies. Never lies. You're going to win the lottery. Just not the 70 million, because I'm claiming that one. Nicola is asking, will the United States government be truthful on June 25th? So for those of you who don't know what June 25th is, that's when the Pentagon is supposed to release their UFO reports to the Senate Intelligence Committee and therefore the public. Will they be truthful? Reply hazy. Try again. I'm going to take that as the Magic 8 Ball is not wearing out, but that's actually a true answer that we are going to get little to none and no confirmation of aliens and no real fun leading up to this. That's the way I'm taking it. And you should too. Because I really think that June 25th is going to be a mild disappointment. It really is going to be a mild disappointment for all of us out there who are in the UFO world, who do this on a daily basis. Are we going to get more videos? Sure we are. Are we going to find out that it's not Russia or China? They're not going to say that just yet. At least that's my opinion. Why? Because they got to keep the money flowing in. It's all about money. It's true. The narrative right now is all about money. Now, does that mean that people like Luis Elizondo and Chris Mellon are playing a game? No, I don't think they are. I don't think they are. But I do believe that they are not going to give us the juicy secrets that we want, like crashed aircraft being rebuilt at Area 51 and S4. We're not going to know about Roswell. We're not going to know whether or not we have alien bodies. We're not going to know that. No way. But We could always hope. We can always hope. And that's what we need to do. We need to have hope. But whatever that trickles out of the UFO faucet, I'm telling you right now, it isn't going to be exactly what we want. And we have to be prepared for that. It really is. If you think differently, well, keep your fingers crossed. Keep your magic 8-ball nearby, because I don't believe it's going to happen. I really, really don't. All right, I want to say thank you to everybody participating in today's Magic 8-Ball Quest that we do once a week because we enjoy it. It's a lot of fun, and it adds a little bit of audience participation and a little bit of laughter to all of you guys. I hope you enjoyed it as well. Coming up next, here we go. Let's do this thing, shall we? The news is always changing, which is why we bring you the SOR Newswire at the back end of every show, where we get to the weird, the wacky, the strange, and sometimes, let's find out what we got here. The odd, totally odd. 15 wild elephants are rampaging currently in China. How do you stop them? Well, there's human ways to stop them. Elephants are going where they're not supposed to, but who knows how they're going to be stopped. We've never seen an elephant rampage, and frankly, we don't want to. It doesn't sound like a good time for anyone involved. Unfortunately for the residents of Yunnan province in southwestern China, they've had to deal with one for a couple of months now. A herd of 15 wild Asian elephants has blazed a 500-mile trail of destruction through the province. A 16-member elephant herd left their home at the Jishuangbana National Nature Reserve in southern Yunnan on April 16th. The two older elephants soon decided they weren't up for a road trip and returned home, but the others said, "Screw you, we're going to go deal with the man, and we're going to take them on." So they decided to literally have an elephant convoy through the jungle. Yes, where's C.W. McCall when you need him for a theme song? One of the traveling elephants had a calf on the way, bringing the number of prowling pachyderms to 15. It sounds like the elephants are on a fun little journey, but they're not too careful about where and how they travel. In other words, they're not being polite. They're not tipping their waiters or waitresses. They're being quite rude. Over 2 months on the run, the elephants have destroyed 138 acres of crops, because they got to stop for feeding, caused more than $1 million in total damages. Luckily, they haven't hurt a person just yet. Locals have been trying to guide the elephants away from residential areas by blocking roads and enticing them with food. However, that has only worked on the animals' terms. Most of the time, they just ignore the people. Their travels has taken them through several major cities. In May, they arrived in Yuji, a Yunnan city with more than 2 million residents. Over their 6-hour stay in the city, they did a little shopping, got into some mischief, almost got arrested. They broke into barns and ate out of dumpsters before discovering and demolishing some farmland. A local tire shopkeeper, surnamed Jia, witnessed the elephants as they entered the city's outskirts. He first spotted them through his store windows. It was around 10 p.m. and I was still in my shop. I heard some noise on the street, looked out. There's elephants, he says. Despite being slightly scared of the huge animals, Gia went out on the street, take a closer look. You don't often see wild elephants roaming through the city, after all. He says, I was so curious. The nearest elephant was only a few yards away from me. However, both local and national governments have told people to do the exact opposite of what Gia did. They have warned people to stay away from the animals and not too closely, to watch, tease, or hurt, or maliciously drive away from them. Asian elephants may attack humans out of the defensive instinct when frightened, warned the government of the Ishan County where Yuchi is located. Now, experts are not certain on why the elephants decided to leave the city or their area. They don't usually start traveling north at this time of year, since food is scarcer in Yunnan's northern mountains and woods. Zhang Li, a professor of ecology at Beijing Normal University, Hate to see the abnormal university there. Things said the elephants could be looking for a new home. Their rainforest habitat is shrinking, and they could have felt it's time to find greener pastures. Another possibility is that this elephant herd lost their way during a march because of the shortage in experience of its leader. Chen Mingyong, a professor at Yunnan University School of Ecology and Environmental Science, said, whatever the reason for the migration, the Chinese authorities would love it if they returned home. The government has set up a task force of 360 first responders, 76 cars, and 9 airborne drones to monitor the elephants. So far, however, the task force has been unable to stop them. Their march continues, and they're getting dangerously close to Yunnan's provincial capital of Kunming. It's understandable that the government wants to stop them before they get to Kunming. After all, the COP15 United Nations Biodiversity Conference is supposed to take place there in October. Well, they got a few months to see if the elephants get there or not. Some users on Chinese Weibo social media service have quipped that the elephants are clearly on their way to attend the conference. They might very well be. Let us continue. With the face value of $20, this is actually kind of cool. The double eagle was the last gold coin produced for intended circulation in America. 1933 U.S. gold coin was sold by Sotheby's Auctions in New York City for a record $18.9 million. Yeah, the one that sold, it was never issued, the double eagle, as President Franklin D. Roosevelt withdrew the U.S. from the gold standard in an effort to lift the country from depression. Most of the coins were then destroyed and declared illegal to own, with the exception of the one sold today. It had belonged for a time to King Farouk of Egypt and was later seized in a Secret Service sting operation in New York City. It's sold by shoe designer Stuart Weitzman to a bidder whose identity has not yet been revealed. The sale marks the second time this 1933 double eagle coin set a world record as the most valuable coin, having sold at Sotheby's New York in 2002 for $7.59 million, Sotheby's said in a statement. Yeah, there's still some of them floating out there. They just haven't been found. Here's another one. Everyone who's ever lived alone knows how freaky it can be when you hear an unexplainable noise or something seems to move from where you last left it. Well, these incidents can usually be ignored. One girl on TikTok shared a video that reveals something that's going to be a little bit harder to brush off. Mia Aurora posted a video to her TikTok page where she claimed that she made an unpleasant discovery in her house. According to her, she came home to find unexplainable clumps of hair in her shower. She begins the video by explaining that she lives alone, doesn't often have friends over, and Aurora also clarifies that no one else uses her shower except her. The video then shows several clumps of dark hair sitting in her shower stall. To make matters even stranger, Aurora has brightly colored hair, making it very unlikely that it came from her. Since posting the video to TikTok, of course, it's been viewed 1.2 million times. According to the post, the video was published, and then since then, the comments have been primarily consistent of people asking for an update. How about you get the hell out of your house and get police to check it, and then change the locks? Never mind TikTok. Never mind the weird colored hair. If you don't have dark hair and there's dark hair in your tub at the bottom of it, call the police. There might be somebody hiding in your house. Thought of the Day happens every night at this time, where we ask a question on our Facebook and Twitter pages, then read your responses on the air because we love the audience participation around here. Today's Thought of the Day is as follows. What's the strangest encounter you've had with a cryptid or alien? Let's go to Dean. I can't confirm they were cryptid or alien, but Ozzy, Steve, and I have met some pretty freaky dudes after the pub has shut down. Ian saw a UFO, we don't know what it was, in the cloudless sky in the middle of the day in southeastern Zimbabwe. It looked like a ball of fire crossing overhead from one horizon to the other for about 20 minutes. Is a UFO, bro? Let's see here. I laid in bed, paralyzed, as a shadow person came over me at the exact same time, and my mom had two grays standing at her bedside saying she's not healthy enough. When this ended, I ran to her room like a little boy and she told me what happened. She was hospitalized a week later. Steve, I have had encounters with, I'm not reading that one. Sorry. Let's go to Judith. Done yet. But I keep hoping. Greg, I was by the Colorado River in Arizona at night. My cousin and I caught a black shadow figure trying to sneak up behind us. It ran away over the gravel without making a sound. Oh, that's creepy. Anthony, waking up paralyzed at 3 a.m. to a trio of entities watching me in my bed has happened twice that I remember. Oh, there's nothing creepy about that. Nothing creepy about that. Joe, I met a succubus and I asked her to marry me. Sandra, met an alien in the back alley. Dandy, telepathic communication, abduction, and ongoing weird dreams. Why do you ask, Dave? Gary, I once was stalked by this bearded gentleman who I now refer to as the Bearded Wonder. He says he's human, but I'm not so sure. I think the beard is the key. I think he's referring to me because Gary has a nice beard. Double Bobby, a succubus did things to me only imaginable in the deep web. Ian, some dude said, relax, bend over and take it like you're the reptile you are. Oh, that's a bad alien right there. Michael, I haven't had any encounters with cryptids or aliens that were not strange. And finally tonight, Joshua. Oh, maybe we've got to sneak a couple more in. I'm not 100% sure, but I've had 2 or 3 interesting and scary dreams. I don't know if I've been taken before. Not sure if I want the details either. Brett, can't talk about it. Big no. Huge MyLab case with a bunch of aliens. Sorry to leave you all in suspense, but who doesn't enjoy the suspenseful things in life? Tell me about it. Tell me about it. That's just weird. That's just weird right there. That whole MyLab thing, I don't get it. Don't get it. I want to say a big thank you to everybody playing along in the Thought of the Dave. We really do appreciate the participation from our audience on Facebook and on Twitter. And guess what? We're going to do it all again tomorrow. Thank you to everybody who listened up to Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire that she prepares for us every night. And a big thank you to Bigfoot Michigan Rob, Duke Sullivan from World Bigfoot Radio, and Gary Spikes Jr. for hanging out with us and literally having a great night of Sasquatch talk. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone participating in our chat rooms tonight on YouTube, LGAB, Revolution Radio, Twitch, Spreaker, Revolution Radio, Facebook, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, yep, we've got room for them too. Good night. That's a good show, everyone. Solid show. Solid show. Bear with me. Oh, there we go. All right. Let's rock and roll. So I'll load that up. Go. Move that there. That was fun. That was a fun night. Thanks, Oria Marie. Appreciate that. Thanks, Michael Haywood. Don't be a stranger. Stella 4-star. Thank you for joining us. Really appreciate that. Sinister, thank you. Thanks, Duke. I thought it was a great show. Nimpkish, thank you so much. Adam Cram, how you doing, man? Yes, it's Bumblefoot. Little brother is watching. Love the guy. Before I leave, how far is Meghog from you? I don't even know where Meghog is. Meghog. I don't see any towns called that. There was a Meg Hog born in 1575. Kimberly is down near Vancouver, so she's about a 5.5 hour drive from me. Damn, Adam. I could see why. That's a great comment right there. Which town were you trying to find? Meghog? All right. That moves there. Give me 2 seconds, guys. Oh, Kimberly, BC. Let me check. Eight hours, 45 minutes. That's a big pull right there. Depends on which way you go. About 8 hours, 8.5 hours. Thanks, Bigfoot Rob. Appreciate you, brother. All right, let's bring in these things here. Hi, lovely Linda Bennett. How are you? The town I am near is 100 Mile House, British Columbia. 100 Mile House. Magog, Quebec. Oh God, I'm like 3,800 miles away. Now that's a far ways away. Four-day drive. That's about it. Hey, Olin, how are you? Yeah, I'm on the other end of the country here. It's never too far, Murray. It's never too far. Just saying. All right, where did this one end? Is it right there? I knew this one would get me. Should be right about there. Yeah, that was a lot of fun tonight. Oh, that's all right. Thank you for the thoughts, Jordan. I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. Fap, all I'm saying is, dude, when we finally get together, we're going to Taco Bell. We're going to destroy that place. We're going to absolutely destroy that place. Then we'll head back to your Motel 6 and my Super 8, destroy the bathrooms. Oh, where's my music here? Never tried it because I don't believe in that garbage. You know, nothing hurts. That type of investigation does not hurt. Jan Yannick and Junior, we go. Okay, so right, gentlemen. Okay, if we do that, where's the beginning? And out of the beautiful state of Michigan, Bigfoot Michigan Rob. I cut it off. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Now, I want to start off with a question from Jordan here. Damn it. Who's asked a different argument for. Thanks, Fabster. Appreciate the Fabster, man. Appreciate the Fabster. Good night, Kurt Seltzer with a splash of lime. Science Bob tomorrow with Dr. Bruce Maccabee. We're going to have some fun. That's not it. Okay, so if that's the beginning right there, cut that off. So let's go. Should go right there. No, that ain't it. Probably one of the best beards in the Bigfoot business. Gary Spikes Jr. and Duke Sullivan. Right about there, I guess. Right. Hey, Jan Yannick, had a lot of fun with you guys. Thank you. Who's the other dude, or is that you with just multiple personalities on here? Damn, Jan Yannick. What kind of pizza are you ordering? Applesauce? Fap, that is Fap, that is one of the cruelest things you have ever put in our chat room. You know, it would be funny to put a muzzle and a straitjacket on Dave and let me take him to Taco Bell down here and watch me eat. Very not nice. Um, yes, I did. That's from the other day, right? 416 Bitcoin. Excuse me. Oh, I apologize. Yeah, John, they were a lot of fun, eh? What is this Taco John's? Now I have to look that up. Taco John's. The valuest menu. Chicken snack quesadilla. Chicken bacon guac street taco. Spicy chicken and potato griller. Cinnamon sugar tortilla crisps. Cheesy bacon ranch loaded potatoes or potato olays. Sirloin steak and potato griller. Now we get into it. Crispy tacos. Meat and potato burrito. 6-pack and a pound. What the Sam, hell, and God's beautiful earth is this? Oh my God. Wow. 2,500 calories, 6,130 milligrams of sodium, 231 carbs. So what do we get here? Bunch of tacos and even more potato olays. Oh, so those are potatoes. Oh my, where has this been? Where has this been? Oh, let's get to the burritos now. Bean burrito looks, oh my gosh. The super burrito. Oh, here we go. Oh. Show you what I'm looking at. I should actually stop being rude and actually show you guys what I'm looking at here. Hold on. Here we go. Look at that. Look at that. That looks fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. What's this boss burrito here? What do we got here? Sometimes you need to tame your hunger. Lucky for you, we got you covered. Packed with over a pound of cilantro lime rice, black beans, and your choice of grilled chicken or steak. Oh my word. This is gorgeous. This is just gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. Oh, now we're getting into the combos. Oh, even that taco salad looks good. Look at that. That's fantastic. That's just fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Just fantastic. I'm in love. I am so in love right now. Totally the song Angel by Aerosmith right now. I'm in love. Yet I don't know if I can taste the night. I'm in tears. And the crying that I do is for you. Yeah. You Americans got all the good restaurants. It's one thing I love about you guys. You don't fuck around. You just, come on, we need some tacos here. Let's get a taco restaurant here. Not like up here. People are so petty about their food up here. Oh, do they have a vegan menu? I'm gluten-free. I can't have soy. I can't have regular milk. I can't have this. I can't have that. Killing me. Let's get some tacos up here. What do you say there, Amy Vegas? Oh, how's the new place? Are you moved in yet? Thank you, beautiful Marie. You look like a soccer player, Fap. What's it like trying to run into a soccer net that's 18 feet long and your head still doesn't fit in the net? Can't put that in the old onion bag now, can you? Well, just because we can, let's just go here. Hold on. Hey, we're going to go to Taco Bell Canada website here. Just because we can. Yeah, that's what we want. Full screen. Let's go to the featured section. Do you guys have crunch wraps down there? Do you have crunch wraps? Grilled cheesy burrito. That actually looks good. The problem with Canada's Taco Bell is the portions are really small. Really small. We're going to skip the vegetarian stuff because I think it's an embarrassment. What did I just talk to you about earlier? There's no way Taco Bell should have a vegetarian menu. Look at this, people. Look how thin that taco is right here. Look how thin that is. That's why I stay away from the crunchy taco. This one's looking a little bit better, and so is that one. That looks beautiful. Let's get into the real stuff here. Here we go. 7-layer burrito. Look how quality that looks. All of that looks just scrumptious. It's my favorite right here, the beef burrito supreme. Really enjoy that. Specialties. Look at that. That looks fucking horrible. But I'd still pig out on that. Oh, yeah. Then here we go. This is the bomb right here. The fries, French fries supreme. Now I want to show you the difference between this and Taco Time Canada menu. Come on, let's bring it up here. Show me the pictures. That's not what I want. Show me the pictures. Here we go. Menu. Oh my God. The Mexi fries are the best. $23.99 for all of that? Hold on a second here. Let's go back here for a second. I could totally eat all of that. Totally eat all of that. Except the Crustos. They're kind of gross. Look at that. Oh. At Taco Time, their portions are huge. Their portions are huge. Is this done downloading now? Hold on. Almost. Oh, I can't even do it anymore. I can't even do it. I'm killing myself here. I know, but the tater tots don't taste the same because you don't. That Taco Time, you know what the key to Taco Time is you get their hot sauce. Their hot sauce is fantastic. And then you mix it with their cheese, their hot cheese. You mix the hot sauce with the hot cheese with the tater tots, which are now called Mexi fries. I'll tell you, if that doesn't bring a tear to your eye, I don't know what will. I really don't. You obviously don't have a conscience or a soul for that to happen. Just saying. Good night, gorgeous Brandy. Good stuff. Really good stuff. Man, did I just hit a wall? I'm tired all of a sudden. Fap, I bet you'd like to see 500 again. All right, everyone, it's that time of the night where old Davey says he's got to go to bed because I am tired. I'm going to be dreaming of tacos all night long. Thank you. Oh, I'm tired. Big thank you to Murray, to Lynn Soes, to Dickens, to Madison, to Ed Clater, to Ozzy Steve, Watson, Fabster ×2, Big Rob, and Emily for the wonderful super chats tonight. Really do appreciate it. Thank you so much for your love and everything, guys. Thank you to all the veterans who listen to this show on a nightly basis. We love you. Thank you to all of our regulars in the chat room here each and every night. Couldn't do it without you. You guys are amazing. Well, tomorrow night on the show, Dr. Bob McGuire, Dr. Bruce Maccabee will be here for Science Bob and Friends. We're going to have a great show. I look forward to it. I hope you do as well. 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern. Don't forget, you can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, and if you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, right here on YouTube. Take care,